I would like to call the Flint Board of Education Board Committee of a Whole meeting to order at 6:31 p.m. Board members, as I call your name, please reply present for the record. Vice President Perry, Secretary Green,
Present.
Treasurer McIntyre,
Present.
Assistant Secretary Treasurer McNeil,
Mine is.
and Board Trustee Walker,
Present.
Board Trustee Wright, and myself, I am present. We do have a quorum. Let me see.
How do you make this thing?
Mhm. Board members, joining us this evening is Attorney Van Waren from the Troon Law Firm.
Carol, they can't hear. They can't hear with the They can't hear with the map.
Oh, I'm sorry. Board members, joining us this evening is Attorney Van Waren from the Troon Law Firm. I am now going to turn the floor over to Mr. Van Waren for our discussion regarding bids, and he probably has brought some guests to inform the community of some options. So, Mr. Van Waren, thank you for joining us, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me here tonight. I want to start out by just indicating that under Michigan law, this Board of Education has broad general authority to sell real estate that's no longer needed for school purposes. Because the properties that we'll be talking about tonight do not have any bonded debt, it provides great flexibility to this board in terms of determining whether to sell, lease, or various ways to dispose of property. The board has a policy 3950, which also grants great flexibility to the board in terms of determining what to do with surplus property. Before you, we put together a packet of materials. Most of the materials deal with the buildings and vacant land that the district may determine is no longer required for school purposes and they would want to sell. With regards to same, like I say, the board has great and broad authority to sell or dispose of property. And it's up to the Board of Education to determine, number one, what properties they would like to put on the market for sale. And number two, the terms and conditions of the sale. Within the packet that you received tonight in the pocket, there's a list of interested individuals who have contacted the district and also myself about particular properties that they are interested in purchasing. Also in your packet is a form of a bid solicitation that we've used with other school districts around the state of Michigan. So with regards to the sale or transfer of property, the district through the Board of Education can determine what's in the best interest of the district. For example, if the board determines that a particular building would best be served by having a community group take it over, the board has that authority. And so this is not a situation where the Board of Education would necessarily have to sell a property to the highest bidder, but rather the board would look to be what's in the best interest of the school district through the community. There is a requirement of fair value, but that can be satisfied. When you look at many of these buildings, the cost to, for example, if you're going to demolish and then the land value may be nominal. So we can certainly work with community groups if it's the determination of the Board of Education that certain community groups are interested in certain properties. We would be happy to assist the board with those properties. Like I said, we've had several inquiries from various groups and certain developers about the potential sale of buildings. And oftentimes when you look at the number of buildings and land that the district has available, we look at focusing on selling the properties that may be most readily available and for sale, and that people would want to move forward with the sale. Oftentimes, the Board of Education will appoint a committee to work with us. We're fine working with the entire Board of Education, but if you would prefer that we work through a committee that would then report to the board, we're happy to do that also. I'm happy to take any questions, but again, I want to emphasize that this is one area of law that the Board of Education, from a policy standpoint, makes the decision on what you want to do and what you determine is in the best interest of the school district. So unlike many times when I appear before boards, I tell them what they can't do. In this situation, the board has broad authority to determine what's in the best interest of the district. So I'd be happy to answer any particular questions, but I do think from the standpoint of moving forward, it would be important to start marketing certain of your properties. And I'm happy to assist the district with marketing, with getting bids out on the street, requesting, bids come back, setting up walkthroughs. Generally, when you have a building and you're going to go out to bid, if you don't have a real estate broker, which in most situations with school districts is not necessary, you set dates and times where you have walkthroughs of the building and make sure that the public has full access to looking at the building and making sure they know what's in the building and how much acreage, if there are any issues with the building. So it's critical here, in my opinion, that there be transparency with the community as to, what properties are available, the bid process, inspections of the building, or walkthroughs as we call them. But I think what's most important is getting as much information out to the community as possible as to what properties the district is interested in selling. And I would be happy to answer any questions from the board.
At this time, does any board members have any questions for Mr. Van Weeren? It was something that you said and I lost. Go ahead, Ms. Green. Did you?
Everybody hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
So this wonderful information you put in this folder is great. It's going to help me a lot tonight when I get my glasses at home where I can see. But do you know if all the vacant properties are something that we plan on selling, or is that something you just have all the vacant properties listed in this notebook? Is that in the vacant land also?
Yes, I have all of the properties listed. Doesn't mean that the board will determine that they're for sale, but I wanted to put everything in front of the board and the community as to the properties that may be available for sale.
Okay, I just wanted to clear that up. Thank you.
Sure.
And I also recall us speaking as a board, talking about keeping our high school properties because of the parcels of land and the attachments and the possibility for campuses for the Flint Community School down the line if we are blessed with growth. So as a board, are we still there as far as keeping the high school properties for at least those for sure for ourselves? Central Whittier campus, Northern, Northwestern, and Southwestern.
I support that idea. Can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
I can.
Can we maybe hear a little bit more about leasing options? Because isn't that an option that we have where we keep and retain the land and we lease it? Wasn't that what we talked about, like a 50-year lease? No, of the property too, yeah.
We did discuss those options, but I thought we had also took a vote that we would keep those buildings, and we still have the option
Okay,
to lease them, but in order to lease them, you have to retain it for yourself in order to work a lease. If you sell it, then you can't lease the land. So I guess the point that I'm making is to pull those out of the option, because if you did want to lease the land, if you put it in the group to be sold, and is sold, that's what I'm saying.
So it was my understanding that Thrun Law Firm put together this package so that we would have the information, but this isn't necessarily the land that, or the properties that we're going to be selling. This is just for our information.
Right,
And so okay, I'm having difficulty
right.
hearing you.
And these are all the vacant properties. And
Just
so
the
what I'm
vacant.
saying is, since we have the public here, Mr. Van Wieren, and we had discussed this as a board, this is not something I'm pushing solely. We discussed it as a board that we would keep our high school properties because they had the largest parcels of land, the greatest opportunity for growth as it pertains to us as a district, in case we ever got our bearings back and wanted to expand. So I thought that's what we had.
I don't
Even with,
think-
Miss, even talking with the administration, I thought that was the consensus that we had came to. Go ahead, Ms. McNeil.
That was the consensus because I can think we took those schools off of this list. They should be in this package. If you name those schools again, they are not in this. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I know we don't have Central in here. We do not have Central, Whittier,
Northern
Northern,
and Southwestern,
And
because I haven't looked.
and Northwestern.
Right, I took those out at the request of the
Yeah.
district. My
Okay.
understanding that the high schools were not going to be for sale, and
Right.
so they are not part of,
This
packet.
portfolio.
right. All the
Okay.
other properties though,
Okay.
and just to be very clear, this is just information. This is not any decision
Written in
that the
stone,
board
but,
has made.
right.
Right.
And I, like I said, I want to make that clear because we have quite a few interested buyers from the public. So I just wanted the district's position to be clear. We'll go Mr. Walker, Ms. Green. Did you have your hand up? Then you had your hand up? Did you have your hand up or something? Okay, so Mr. Walker and then Ms. Green.
Yeah, so I just, oh, sorry. I know you can hear me. You mentioned in your presentation the piece about the fair value. And I know something that comes up often is, appraisals of our properties. With that being said, I do believe that our properties are currently being appraised, if I'm not mistaken, along with a number of other things. Is that information something that's going to be updated within this binder, or is that information something that's already captured? And if so, when did that take place?
It will be updated in terms of what's required under Michigan law. You're not required to get the fair market value. So if you obtain an appraisal for a particular property, the board needs to determine what the fair value, and that oftentimes is less than the fair market value. So as long as there's consideration being exchanged, the district, if you obtain an appraisal, doesn't have to get the appraised price for the property. That's where I'm talking about the flexibility that the Board of Education has to work with individual buyers, look what the proposed use of the property will be. You can put restrictions that they keep the property in good repair and including, any outside lawns or anything like that, we can put those types of restrictions because oftentimes when a district will sell a property, even though it's owned by or it's leased, to another entity or individual, since it's been a school property for so long, people in the community still consider it to be a school property, even though you've entered into a transaction to transfer it.
So this binder is just for information, as you said, but I still would like the information on Central, Northwestern, Northern, the high schools that we're not going to sell. I still would like to have the information on those properties too. Is that something that we'll get later, or is something separate that's coming?
Sure, I'd be happy to pull that information together and get that to you.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Is there any other board members with questions? Okay, at this time, while we have Mr. Van Wieren at the podium, if you are a member of the public and you would like to direct a question to Mr. Van Wieren, he might not be able to help you on the fly, but we're going to try to let the community get an opportunity to get some professional guidance. And I'd like you to just raise your hand and I'll select you and then we'll go from there. Is there any members from the public that have questions as it pertains? Okay, right here in the middle that has your hand up high, stand up, please. And well, yes. Okay, Mr. Van Weeren, yes. Can you come to the front and allow the public to take that podium? Thank you, Superintendent.
Be careful. Here you go, and then that.
Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Harvey. I am a performance artist and activist in Flint, interested in creating spaces for young people to be able to do theater. And so my question is, what is the process for even getting your name like on the list of potential people to purchase or lease uh, a building or a space? Is who do we contact? What do we need to write? Those sorts of things.
That's a very good question. Monica Elston, I believe, will be the contact person at the school district. She forwards all information to me. She's been doing that for the last a couple of months. So she would, if I understand correctly, Monica, you would be the person at the district that would receive any inquiries about property? Thank you.
So a follow-up question. If I were to send an email, what information would you need from me or anybody interested? What information specifically would you like to have in that email?
First and foremost, the property and building that you're interested in, what you would be looking to use it for, and whether you're looking to use the entire building or just a certain part of the building.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you can come up to the podium, sir. Step up, and I'm gonna say this while you're walking up. Mr. Van Weeren also discussed the options of people in the community getting together and possibly sharing the responsibility of a property while running dual programs. So go ahead, Mr. Van Weeren.
Hi, my name is Vernon McClinton. I had inquired about purchasing a few of the properties, and unfortunately I was late. It was a delay trying to sign in. So are the properties available to buy? I was interested. I sent a note back in January.
Yeah, as to certain of the properties, the board's not made a decision on any of the properties, but I know on a couple of the properties that you were interested that they're not available, as I understand it.
Yes, that's what I gathered from your note, but there's two other properties that I'm interested in that was not mentioned in your email.
Okay, if you can send an email, you've got my email.
Yep.
And you're welcome to send it to me directly or to Monica. I see where she just put her email address up on the screen. So either way. And
I'll
you're
get it to
welcome
you
to
and
call
copy
me
Monica.
also.
Thank you very much.
Concerning properties. Okay. So if you are from the general public and you're sending something to Mo in the subject line, put vacant property for sale so she can know what the topic is, so it won't get lost in the sauce or overlooked. We can group those things together, make sure we respond to you. Okay, gentlemen at the podium.
Yes. How everybody doing? My name is Rodney Porter, and I'm the owner and director of Vanguard Ministries. And I was wondering, is the process the same for a 501c3 as it is a regular person? Because I'm looking to buy.
The process in terms of the inquiry is the same. If you can direct, like I said, to Monica's email, she'll forward to me any information as to the buildings and or property that you're interested in.
Is there a list we can, like, is there a list best that we can view these properties? Because I don't know all of them. I just know the one that I have in mind.
Defer to the board if I'm authorized to at least put a list out. It doesn't mean the properties are for sale,
Right.
but at least we can receive inquiries about, and we can certainly make that list available. Monica, we can send you a list of the properties without all the attachments. I know it's many pages, so we'll do that tomorrow.
All right, thank you. Thank you for your time.
Sure.
I have a follow-up question, if I may.
Go ahead.
So is this all of this public information that's in this binder?
I haven't looked at, I don't know what's in the binder because I haven't had a chance to look. We just got it now. So I don't know if it is public information at this point, Mr. Van Weeren.
Mr.
Yes, the information was provided to the board, not under attorney-client communication. And what you'll find in the binder are basically tax records, which are public documents anyway. So
These public documents should be available anyway
yes,
to the public.
that's correct.
Could I make a motion that we put these up in public so that people have ready access to the documents? It's not like this is secret information. And I ran on the platform of open transparency, and I would really like everybody to be able to see what properties, not with the understanding that we're not necessarily selling them or making them available, but it would be good to know for the public just the entirety of what our assets are, how strong we are as a district, because a lot of times there's the misconception that we're a poor district. We don't have strengths. We don't have, we don't have assets. And in fact, we do. And you can see that these are, as you said, there's no bonded debt. And I'm not sure if the public is aware that that's a very rare thing. Isn't that true?
That is correct. Oftentimes when we work with school districts to sell property, specifically school buildings, there's outstanding bonded debt. If that were the situation, there are various steps that have to be taken, including obtaining a fair market value appraisal and obtaining that price before you can sell the property. So like I indicated, this board has great flexibility because you don't have bonded debt. My recommendation would be that we post this information on the district's website, and I will get some language to the administration that makes it very clear that that doesn't mean these properties are for sale, but these are properties that are owned by the district, that there's no debt, they're free and clear, and they are assets of the district.
So to continue, yes, thank you for that. So I just wanted the public to know how valuable we are as a district, that we have this property. It is unbonded, or we don't have any bonded debt, which is an amazing thing that we should all know about and share as a community. And I'd like you to see what it is that we have as Flint Community Schools so that we can move forward as a community and be the best stewards of this property for ourselves, our community, and our scholars and families. So I'd like to make a motion that we make this available so that it's easy to access and so that there's absolutely no confusion or appearance of a lack of
Second.
transparency.
I support.
Second.
Okay.
Okay, it's been moved and properly seconded. Is there any further discussion? I would like to say, okay, we're gonna take a vote. We have to take a vote. So the motion is to put this information on the web address. We're gonna let Mr. Van Weeren handle the language, and it's gonna go on the district's website. And this is between Mr. Van Weeren and Mo is handling this transaction. Okay, is there any further discussion? As I call your name, the roll call vote will be taken. As I call your name, please signify by saying yay or nay to support this action or not to support it. Secretary Green,
Yay.
Treasurer McIntyre,
Yay.
Assistant Secretary McNeil,
Yay.
Board Trustee Walker,
Yay.
and myself, Carol McIntosh. The vote passes 5 to support, 2 absent. So the motion passes, and this information will be posted to our website as soon as Mr. Van Waren can get the language to Mo. Go ahead, Ms.
Maybe add
Green.
something to the motion in updates as we decide which properties we are going to sell as things move forward. I think would be a good idea. I don't know if we need to add it to the motion, but
Okay,
we need
so-
to make sure we do that too, I think.
Okay, so to add that to the motion, then it would have to be an amendment. Do you accept her amendment to your motion?
Absolutely.
Okay, so at this time, she made the motion. You support her motion.
Yes, sir.
Is there any further discussion as it pertains to the amendment? Okay, so at this time, we're going to take a roll call vote to accept Ms. Green's amendment to the motion, to Ms. McIntyre's motion to keep this information post-dated as Mr. Van Waren gives us updated language, because Mr. Van Waren has another job, and he's going to be doing other things besides babysitting our website. So we have to give him the opportunity to handle all of his responsibilities. So before I do the roll call vote, I just want to make that clear what the motion was.
Thank you
So
very
at-
much.
Yes. So at this time, as I call your name, I'd like for you to signify yes to support the amendment or no, not to support the amendment. As I call your name, I'll be looking for your yay or nay. Secretary Green,
Yay.
Treasurer McIntyre,
Yes.
Secretary Treasurer McNeil,
Yes.
Board Trustee Walker.
Yes.
And myself, Carol McIntosh, is a yes for me. The amendment passes 5 yes, 2 absent. So there will be current updates to the website as it pertains to the district's properties. And I just want to say for the record to the public, when they speak of bond debt and how the sale goes, it's like if you have a car and you've paid for it and it's paid off and you own the title free and clear, it might be worth $20,000, but it's yours. So you can sell it for $7,000 if you like. So that's the point of the bond debt language, to let you know, regardless to what the property is worth, we own the deeds free and clear. So Mr. Van Waren is trying to say that the board has this discretion to sell the assets along with administration for what we think is fair as it pertains to the district and the community. So I just
Right.
want to make that clear.
It would be like your home and you had a mortgage, you paid your mortgage off, and so you own your home free and clear. It's the same situation with all of the vacant land and all the buildings that will be posted on the website.
Thank you, Mr. Van Waren. Mr. Walker?
Mr. Van Waren, I just had a question that just came in as it relates to offers already submitted and what the process would be for those.
And that's something that I need some direction from
Okay.
the board. And I do have in the packet a very skeletal bid document that we've used around the state. In my experience, oftentimes it's better to keep things very simple and straightforward so bidders don't get confused with, what properties, they're bidding on and what their offer for the property is, what their proposed use. And like I indicated, in my opinion, it's important that anyone who's interested in any of the properties or buildings be given the opportunity to walk through, do inspections, do what they're going to do, so they know very clearly the condition of the property and what they would be buying.
Okay. Are there any other questions from the community? Please step to the podium. Excuse me one second. If you have a question for Mr. Van Waren, can you guys line up along the brick wall and socially distance, of course, but line up so we can move efficiently? Thank you.
2 questions. One, at the beginning of the meeting, did you guys already discuss which properties were available for sale versus just your total inventory? Did you already identify the ones that were available for sale?
No, we're looking to find interested people, and then we will work with the Board of Education in terms of what properties that they are interested. We know certainly that the high school properties, We're going to post the information, but my understanding at this point in time that those properties are not going to be for sale.
Question number 2, with respect to posting the information, your assets on your website, what's the time frame for that information to be published?
We should be able to do it very quickly. I'll work with Monica tomorrow on it.
I'm sorry, I'm an engineer. Very quickly is not a time frame. A day, a month, 6 weeks? What's your time frame?
I
Well,
indicate I'll be talking to her tomorrow, and it should
Can
not.
somebody from the board?
yes, we will. First of all, Mr. Van Weren has to get the information to Monica. And I'm sorry, we're not moving efficiently enough, sir, but.
I'm not asking for you to go faster than you normally go. I'm just
Okay,
wanting
so
to know.
we're gonna probably need, I'm sure, at least a week would be lenient for them to get proper information, have dialect back and forth for any clarity, for misunderstood information and things of that nature. We don't want to put bad information out there. We want it to be accurate. So can you give us about a week?
That's fine. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir.
Hi.
Good afternoon, good
Hi.
evening.
Good afternoon. I have kind of a 3-part, and hopefully they're pretty simple to answer. Will there be a lease with option to purchase?
That's up to the Board of Education to make the final decision on any particular property, whether it'll be leased or whether it'll be an option or an outright sale.
Okay. Second question is, will there be a curve on the price for nonprofit versus profit type, if you want to use the building for that type of thing? Profit versus nonprofit?
I think the best way to answer that is that the board has the authority and the discretion to determine what the best use of the property would be. So generally, we don't break it down between a for-profit or nonprofit. It goes into what will the use of the property be going forward.
Okay. Last question is, last question is there a limit to if you can have like more than one or at least up to 2 or something like that?
I don't, in my opinion, there shouldn't be. We've generally, when we handle these transactions, there's not a limit, no.
Okay, thank you.
I would definitely want to say, though, if we are going to do any type of consideration for the public, you need to have your business plan and how you will be able to effectively operate whatever ideas or business ventures you are going to go into. We want to see a realistic forecast on how you will survive and be able to maintain a whole school building, your half of a school building. Maybe you're getting with somebody in the community and working with them. We would definitely want to see a true survival plan, a true business plan that shows us that you will be able to sustain yourself and move forward. The purpose of us selling these properties or even leasing them is to get the responsibility off the district. And we don't want to have to come in behind anybody and take these properties back, fix these properties back, assist, or any of that. We're trying to get them off our books and off, no longer become our burden. So we want to know that you can survive if we do give you whatever kind of consideration. Thank you. Go ahead, ma'am. I'm sorry.
Hi, I have a couple of questions as well. My first is around like the limitations for what the board will be considered, or what types of programs or buildings usage that the board would consider. So are there any limitations in mind that, like, if you're trying to open a certain type of program or something, sorry, it's not a well-formulated question, it's very broad, but I'm trying to figure out what sort of things would the board just say like no to?
Well, we're a board of 7, so we can't just say we'd say no to this or yes to that, because everybody is a free thinker and we come together collaboratively and come up with the idea, and we don't never know how that's going to go. But I think if you have a realistic program and you can show us that it's realistic and that you can survive, The whole point in the board doing this is to allow entrepreneurs and free thinkers to have the opportunity to participate in the education system or do something on their own independently and be successful. So we just like to see that there's a path for success for you. Like I said, as long as it doesn't put us in a bad position or liability or whatever, I think if you can sustain ourselves, I don't think we would want to control what you're doing. Is per se, we would like to know what you're doing and we like to
Right.
know that it's realistic, you know?
Yeah. So, yeah, I just was trying to clarify if there was like a restriction on industry or anything like that. Just to be open and transparent. I own
Well,
a,
we're governed by law, so you zoning will definitely dictate some things for us that we won't have any control over. So you'd have to consider all of those things when you decide to partake upon whatever venture it is you're deciding to apply yourself to. So you'd have to do your research on that because we have a lot of burdens and we can't do it all. That's why we have Mr. Van Weeren here to
Mhm.
help us with the heavy lifting.
Are there, sorry, this is just kind of an extra question, but are there any resources available to community members who may be interested in doing something like this, but maybe have not considered that before and may not have all of the resources to do it on their own versus like, you know, an established nonprofit may know the channels and proper things to do in order to figure out if this is a viable plan versus someone who may have just started a small nonprofit?
Mr. Van Weeren, did you say you knew of some resources or the direction to get to resources? Did we speak about that, or is that something we should speak about? What did we say about that?
There are some resources available. And the board president makes a very good point, and that is there's certain things that are outside the control of the school district. For example, zoning. If you wanted to use a particular property for a certain use, you would have to have the city approve it or make sure, and that's, the city is also a resource. Their zoning department can help you. They can review the property documents with you, what the current zoning is, what's permitted, what's not permitted. So that the city can be a resource also.
Thank you. And then my final question was sort of when you all are determining what properties are going to be up for lease or up for sale, is there any timeline or criteria that you all are looking at that can help folks as we sort of navigate and start to think about what properties may be useful for our own sources, what may become available or what may not?
Yeah, I will be working with the board on the specific properties that we'd be looking at marketing first, but I think it's important to know from the community what the interest is in particular properties. If we know that, that's going to help us move forward.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, my name is Kaleem Kazi. I'm the Director of Business and Community Development for Insight and Sylvester Broom Center. We have actually been looking to acquire McKinley Middle School in the past 9 years ago. I was wondering if there are any opportunity zones on your list, whether there's grants available through the actual state or through you guys yourself. In kind of developing a program like we did with Sylvester Broom Center, creating a opportunity for students to use education to move forward.
Well, I just want to say this. We're not in a position to, we're not building other programs. We're trying to get ourselves together so we can run our own program. Now, my suggestion to you, and that doesn't mean this is the right suggestion, is to check with the state. Because if you can go to the state and get your paperwork or support or whatever and come to us and say you want to buy a school, then I can see the board being much more likely to support that. As far as funding for stuff, now I did want to say this. I did have the opportunity to speak to Mr. Ridgway White, who is over the Mott Foundation. He said that that is what his organization does, support programs. He said he would be interested in even working with the public on some of these programs. Now, I don't know if that's true, but I would even talk to some of the foundations around here. I would go to the state and things of that nature. And then once I spoke with them and they told me which way to go, I would circle back to get that building. That would be me, but you have to make that decision. We're not fluent on funding. Mr. Van Waren said he had some ideas to make some avenues possible. So I wanted him to share those things with the public, but as far as the grants and stuff like that, we can guarantee nothing.
Okay.
Right.
And then kind of using our program, if we already have a business plan, who's the best person to present that business plan to?
Well, at the end of the day, when it's time to sell properties and you have a business plan that's viable, we're going to have Mr. Van Buren along with the administration and the board look at it, because we have to make sure that when we go into this contract or this agreement with you, that it makes sense, that it's legal, that all parties concerned are covered, and that we're doing things decent and in order. So that is where I'm hoping we end up. We're on the front end of this as well as you guys. So we're just taking you along for the ride because we heard you guys say you wanted to look at the properties, you wanted information, you wanted transparency. So this is where we are.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you.
I just want to add, in response to your first question, I will provide information to Monica that she can put on the website about possible sources of funding. And I emphasize possible, that there are programs out there, and it would be up to the individuals and entities who are interested to approach, like the board president said, the Mott Foundation and other, entities that may be able to assist.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. So, my next question I just thought of was for you, in a perfect world and everything just goes right, the buyer has their stuff right and together and the board just is like, yes, 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 yes. What is the typical timeline that, or estimated timeline in a perfect world of how long it would take from bid to ownership or leasership?
Generally when bids are solicited, it's a 2 or 3 week process, maybe a month, but then they're analyzed within a week or so. And then it really becomes up to the buyer. If the buyer's requesting a time period for due diligence, if they, have to do inspections, additional inspections or environmental reports, things like that. So it really comes down to the buyer, not the school district. The school district can act quickly on the sale of a property. The school district is exempt from transfer tax, unlike other transactions that you may have been involved in as the seller. A transfer tax is a little less than 1% of the purchase price. School districts are exempt when they sell property. So it makes it much easier because the school isn't coming out of pocket with a transfer tax. When a school district sells a property, I'll give you a very quick example. Say we were to close on a property September 1st, you were to buy a property. The property, every property the school district owns is exempt from taxation. And taxation is determined on December 31st of the previous year. So as of December 31st of 2020, all the school district property is exempt. If you were to buy the property on September 1st, it would stay exempt for the rest of the 2021 tax year. As of tax day, December 31st of 2021, it would become taxable. Your first tax bill would be a July 1, 2022 tax bill. So what I'm trying to say is that it's advantageous to buyers because you're buying exempt property and that exemption stays with the property for the entire year. And just by way of example, if you were to buy property on January 2nd, the property, because it was exempt as of 2 days ago on December 31st, it's exempt for the entire year and then taxable the next year. So it's really would be almost 18 months before you'll get a tax bill.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah, I just had a quick question. As far as the purchase, like beforehand, do the actual purchasers get a chance to look at the properties and decide whether or not they're, interested? Like the ones that are actually still standing properties?
Right. Generally, how it's handled is that when the bids come in, the Board of Education determines what bid they are going to accept. And then if the bid has conditions, like, for example, you'd like 30 days for inspections, things like that, then that goes into the determination by the board whether that's a bid that's acceptable. I can tell you that the fewer conditions that are put in by a buyer, the better it looks for the bid.
Right.
So the purchase price is certainly a factor, but limiting the number of contingencies is also very, very important.
Right. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Carolyn Scott. I'm here on behalf of someone else. And I have to say, I have two questions. The first one would be, what is the percentage of a building being approved or denied? Is that something that's usually leaning toward most people get approved, or is it more likely there's more homework to do and most people are being denied?
It really comes down to the individual property and the individual buyer. And look, so I can't give percentages.
Okay. And my second question is, since there seems to be a lot of doubt as to people getting the buildings in a timely manner, what is the plans or the goals to do with these buildings if they're left unattended and not used for the community or just the overall appearance of that neighborhood? What are you guys going to do? Are you going to maintain it yourselves? Are they just going to fall to the wayside and be another vacant building that's broken into and burglarized? What's the plan if the buildings aren't being bought up by the community?
And that's why we're talking right now. That's why we want to get the buildings out in the community and available so we can move forward and not have vacant buildings continuing to, sit in neighborhoods.
And the whole point in us doing this is because we heard the cry of the community stating that outsiders always get the first opportunity at what is ours. So this is the opportunity for you, the community, to have a chance to get what is yours before outsiders. So after we exhaust community options, we are going to open it up to outsiders, but we wanted you to have your voice. We wanted you to have your chance. So that is why we are doing it in this manner and keeping it within the community before, and that's why it's not publicly so big, because we didn't want those other big, because we are human and we do have deficit in this district, and we don't want to get to seeing the dollars and push you aside, because that's what happens when money gets involved in the scene. You kind of get distracted. So we're giving you your opportunity before we start looking at those dollars. That's why we have Mr. Van Weeren here talking about funding options possibly, and that's why we're working with the community, because after this process is over, we will open it up to others and outsiders, and whoever comes with their money for those properties that we are trying to get rid of, we are going to give those properties up. And Mr. Van Weeren is going to work on those contracts, but there will be deals to move these properties because we can't afford to keep sitting on them. We have students we have to educate, we have to free up our dollars so that we can bless our students and our parents and our teachers and give them the supplies, the tools, and the facilities that they need. That is the point in us doing this.
I thank you for the opportunity to let us know that, and we get the chance to bid on the properties or get the properties first. What's the time frame? I might have missed that. What's the time frame before you open it up to the outsiders?
We haven't set a time frame because we're not together. We're new in this process too. We've never sold these buildings like this. So we're not rushing you because we sat on them all these years. But we do know that there's others who are interested. So at this point, Mr. Van Weeren is getting his stuff together. In the district, we're getting ours together. We haven't opened it up to the outsiders yet. So we don't have a timeline. We're giving you a chance to submit your stuff. And we don't have a timeline right now, but we'd like to do it soon. So if you have a business plan, that's why we're saying get with Mr. Van Weeren, get your funding and all that stuff together, because we are ready to liquidate. So I'm saying you're safe. This is just because I'm only one board member. I would say you're safe for the rest of this year, but I say after January, we're probably gonna have to post something.
Okay,
Because I think that's more than fair. It's August.
yes, that is, that's fair. That's pretty good.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Say it again. Okay. And we will try to do the updates on the website, so keep your eyes on the website for those type of updates. Go ahead, ma'am. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you, board. Thank you, sir. Ian Shetron. I'm just wondering, for the purpose of putting together a bid, will the board allow for assessments, studies to be done, engineering, environmental on the sites before the bid is submitted? Because in a lot of these properties, there's a great deal of variability with the structures, with the situation in some of these properties that have sat for some time. I think it may even be in the board's interest to be able to do these studies beforehand, because otherwise some of these bids may be very speculative. I'm just wondering if the board is going to allow assessment before a bid.
Yeah, generally in terms of assessments and having availability for inspections, that's granted. But when we're talking about environmental report, we're doing, for example, phase 1 or phase 2 or BAs. That's something that my recommendation to the board, that when the bids come in, that be stated in the bids, that the purchase price is proposed to be this amount, subject to the following contingencies. And if the board determines that yes, a certain building, there are issues that need to be, determined in terms of the condition, in fairness to the buyer before moving forward, then that will certainly be considered.
Okay. So again, on the engineering side then, for engineering studies, would you put that in a different category then than the environmental?
I would do that. My recommendation to any bidder would be to break out, and generally certain due diligence can be done faster or quicker than others. And a lot of times it comes down to the consultant you're going to bring in and their availability. When you're talking engineering studies, if you've got to bring a consultant in that may take 30 or 60 or 90 days,
right,
that's kind of the market. Sometimes on an environmental, you can get a phase 1 within 30 days, but then if you find something, you go to a phase 2 and you may have to do a baseline environmental assessment and do care plans. So that goes into the mix of the bid.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
I actually have 2 questions. One is actually for you, they're both for the board. First of all, what is the plan to do? What are we going to be doing with the money that we receive from these buildings?
We haven't
and
made it
these
that far, ma'am.
properties? Do we have any idea yet?
We haven't even made it that far. We haven't sold one building. We still working on the process to get the money, let alone how we gonna spend the money once we get it. I'm gonna be honest with you, ma'am. We haven't. We're gonna try to save some money for the district. I can tell you that for sure. But other than that, no, we haven't. We don't have a sound plan. We haven't even thought that. I haven't. I don't know if the administration has, but we haven't.
And also, are you guys going to allow regular public comments? Are you also going to allow regular public comments?
At the end of the meeting, we will.
Okay, because it was written at the beginning of the meeting and that did not happen.
Yes, we are. We were just doing that when we had Mr. Van Weeren because he's going to have to leave. So we were trying to give the public an opportunity to ask his questions and have the public speak to the piece that he introduced. But we will let you have your regular comment.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Does this conclude the questions from Mr. Van Weeren as it pertains to the public? You have a question for Mr. Van Weeren? Step up, please, ma'am.
I just have one quick question. Anybody can answer it. What's the procedure? I'm not sure of seeing the inside of a building. Do you need to get a realtor? Do you have to have your business plan ahead of time? What's the process to see the building before you even try to bid or purchase it or anything? What's the steps for that?
And generally, we don't involve realtors. There's not a need for any of the bidders to engage a realtor, in my opinion.
Okay.
Because I can tell you, it's my recommendation to the board that a real estate commission not be paid if there are bidders who are interested in acquiring the property. In my opinion, you use a realtor or a broker to market the property, but when you have people coming from the community who are interested, it doesn't make sense to pay a broker a fee because you've got people interested already. Well, I mentioned the walkthroughs is part of the process when we get the actual bid documents out. My recommendation will be there will be certain dates and times for walkthroughs. Generally, we have one walkthrough during the day and then we have one at night. So for people who work during the day, they can come at night and vice versa. So we try to make it as open as possible. If we get enough feedback that there needs to be more than 2 walkthroughs, then we schedule more.
So, I mean, I'm not opposed to realtor or not having a realtor, it doesn't matter. But who's working on the behalf of the consumer if you are against the realtor coming in to inspect and help? I know the realtor does good with the paperwork part, but sometimes they have the naked eye to see things that the buyer might not be aware of, like sometimes the roof or the plumbing or the furnace. So if I'm going in and saying, oh, I like this building, the realtor says, oh no, this furnace is 100 years old, it's going to clunk out next, tomorrow. So I know you guys are working on behalf of yourselves, so who's going to work on behalf of the consumer to come in and say, this is the building that I want, and it's not a lot of work to get it together?
Yeah, and that's up to the individual bidder to secure, anyone who they feel is necessary to look at the building, because it is very important, obviously, to look at the condition of the building, what's going to be required. A lot of the older buildings have boilers. They tend to be expensive. Some of the buildings have asbestos. So it's critical that any bidder know exactly what they're buying. And it goes to the president's point of, making sure that there are enough assets to, if you acquire a property, to do what you say you're going to do to the property. Otherwise, it's bad for the buyer, bad for the school district.
Okay, well, thank you guys so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, this will be our last speaker that we take. We have to get on with our regular meeting and our regular agenda. You got something? Okay.
My question is not for you, sir, so I understand if he needs to go. I don't want to hold up his day. But I did have a question about, you all had mentioned before that you were open to collaborations between community members. And I'm a strong advocate for allowing community members to take control of these properties and be able to do what the community needs to be done, right? So I'm wondering if there will be any sort of resource or intentionality on the end of the district to maybe, if somebody is putting in a bid for 2 similar buildings with similar missions or visions, connecting those folks, or if it's left up to the community members to reach out and find whomever may be sitting in this audience or somewhere else in the city to be able to initiate those types of collaborations.
I'm going to be honest. As a district, I'm not going to introduce anybody to anybody. So if you fall out, you won't be suing the district saying, I told you anything. The district, the whole point in us getting rid of these buildings are to alleviate some of our legal liabilities and responsibilities. So I don't think it would be wise for our district to take on another responsibility, because when you hook people up for business, and you're the middle person, then you're involved in that transaction. And if it doesn't go right, somebody's going to blame you. And even if we could overcome it and we go into litigations and Mr. Van Weeren can help us it's still too much of a headache. And that is the point in us arriving where we are. We're trying to reduce the headaches. So I would say now we do have a community relations committee. We won't be doing that, but we will have other conversations around this piece. So if you want to get familiar with somebody in your community, or maybe do that on your own and put a plan together, then that would be up to you. But we as a district can't get involved in that. Our job is to educate students.
Okay, yeah, just thinking about from a standpoint of wanting this to be something that's open to the community. And sometimes when you have two smaller organizations that may be able to come together and have a more viable bid for a property. I was just wondering. So thank you.
You're welcome.
I can say that I have been involved in transactions where if there's more than one interested buyer, that they come together and the board has them get together and figure out what works best and then come
Right.
back. So that, not to, I agree with the president, we're not going to get involved as a middle person, but we can put buyers to get potential buyers together if they're looking at similar properties.
And I urge you to look look around the room tonight. Those are people that are interested in the same, maybe have some of the same ideas. So maybe you want to take this time to build on a partnership. But yeah, like Mr. Van Weeren says, I think we have our work cut out for us, and I don't think we're able to take on any more. Miss Laura?
So I just wanted to say that we've got a board of 7 here, and I'm, as an individual board member, I can't speak for the board, but I can tell you that as a community activist and as somebody who, obviously lives here in Flint, to me, it's important that this is our property. You're part of the district, we're the district, and this isn't about a strictly, at least for me, like I'm speaking for myself, we have to come together as a board and make decisions as a body. But this isn't strictly about financials. There's more to value than just a dollar amount. And so in my mind, and what I'm looking for, and what I'm hoping that the board comes together with, is looking at not just the bids, the dollar bids that are going into these properties, but what's behind that, the community project, us coming together as a community and making the district stronger. And so to me, that has more value than a strictly dollar bid. And I'm not looking for colonizers and gentrifiers coming in here and swooping up cheap property for, I don't know, whatever kind of investment that they want. I'm looking for community investment. And like I said, I'm only speaking as a single board member. We've got the board as a whole, but I just want you to know that hopefully that's what we're all as a community working towards.
The board has put this together as a unit. They are before the entire board, talking about a way for the community to get these properties with the assistance of Mr. Van Weeren. And we're well aware that these people probably cannot afford to buy a school and fix up a whole school by themselves. So the interest of the board is common, and that's why we are all here together tonight. Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Van Weeren, for your time. Does any other board members have any questions? Okay. Board members, Mr. Walters from the Michigan Department of Education was able to join us this evening to discuss our ESSER funds. In his absence, Ms. Domprey is going to present information to us tonight, the most updated information that she may have, to the best of her ability, and then we're going to move on with our packet. And we also have to provide a space for our public speaker. So Ms. Domprey, let's make sure that we're in order. Let me see.
Beg your pardon. I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you just said last.
Okay, I'm just making sure that I don't owe the public. Monica, do I owe the public a chance to speak on the? Okay, so it's after Ms. Domprey. Okay, Ms. Domprey, we're ready to receive.
So I have Ms. Murphy here with me, since she is quite familiar with ESSER as well, to support me.
Yes.
In ensuring that you all get a good understanding of the information we have today. So Monica is passing around a packet for you that I got from Mr. Walters, and I received it today. That's why you didn't get it ahead of time. So you wouldn't have an opportunity to be able to review it first. So in this packet, there is information regarding the ESSER grants, ESSERs 1, 2, and 3. And the second page talks about the allowable expenses, allowable uses of the funds, and there are several, there's 12 on this page. I'm not gonna read through them all, but I want you all to have this information so you can see that there are 12 allowable uses here. And beside the grants, you can see the different grants that are used for the different allowable expenses. So I mean, you may have an ESSER formula versus a gear versus a CRF versus a 1032D. So this way you can see on that page which grants can be used for which. So on the next page, it goes into that for ESSER 1, 2, and 3, that in addition to the 12 allowable uses that I just showed you for ESSER 1 formula, that there are more uses that are allowed for ESSER 1, 2, and 3. Originally, it was just ESSER 2 and 3, and now they have gone back. More recently, we just found out on Friday, that allows you to now use ESSER 1 using these additional allowable uses. So it talks about learning loss is a big one. And then underneath learning loss, it talks about the different areas in which which qualify for learning loss. So assessments, evidence-based activities, providing information and assistance to parents, and then tracking the student attendance and improving their engagement in distance education. And then on the next page are the last two, where it talks about school facility repairs and improvements, and then also inspection and testing and maintenance and repairs of buildings. And this is to improve the indoor air quality. So the next page, which talks about facility repair improvements and new constructions, you will see that I have highlighted in yellow that it says, yes, ESSER and gear can be used for construction. And there's a section that says, however, the department, this is the United States Education Department, discourages the using of ESSER and gear funds for new construction because this use of funds may limit an LEA, which is a school, ability to support other essential needs and initiatives. There are some specific hoops that we would have to jump through in order to do new construction. And because we only have a limited amount of time in which we can utilize these funds, they highly, highly, highly discourage using these funds for new construction. Just wanted to point that out. So going through the next page, it goes into a lot of guidance that's provided by the United States Education Department over what you can do in order to be able to use it for construction. I'm not going to read through that. I'm going to let you use that at your leisure. It's quite small, so you may need more time to look at that. And that's going through onto the next page as well. So that was the 3 pages of going through that. And then when we get to ESSER 3, with ESSER 3, we have to ensure that we consider that how we intend to use the funds will prevent, prepare for, and respond to coronavirus, and that is allowable under the CARES Act. It is reasonable and necessary. It promotes equity, and it supports students returning to the classroom. Now on this next page for ESSER 3, it talks about that at least 20% of the money provided for ESSER 3 must be spent to address learning loss. And then these 5 categories are the items in which we have to adhere to for addressing learning loss. So we have to ensure whatever activities that we choose, they can fit into one of these 5 areas. So with ESSER 3, we are projected an estimated $99 million. That means that 20%, at least $20 million, has to go towards learning loss. And that if we don't put 20 million towards our learning loss, we don't get access to the rest of the funds. That is, they go hand in hand, and that's with ESSER 3 only. So I just want to stress that as well. And one of the other things that we have to take into consideration is maintenance of equity. This is also new for ESSER 3. And what we have to take into consideration is that we have to take our schools and rank them for a poverty level for each school. And then we have to determine that the top 25%, we can't adjust the staff or the resources that they receive, and it can't be disproportionately affected compared to any of the other schools in the district.
Right there. You was doing so good. I was following good, and then you right there, you lost me. You said it could be used for learning loss. And what else? Say it again.
So one of the piece that Ms. Dunpray was just describing was the maintenance of equity. And so we have to rank all of our schools based on their percentage of poverty, the percentage of students that we serve at that particular building that are in poverty. We're familiar with this because we do the same thing for Title I. However, all of our schools are school-wide, but we still evaluate what their individual percentages are. This is saying that we have to maintain a certain level of staffing and investment in those pupils at that building. We can't have a disproportionate investment. We have to make sure that those schools that represent the top 25% of students living in poverty, that they're continued to be supported at the level to which we were supporting them prior to these funds arriving. So we looked at our list today to determine our top 2 schools, which for us is 2 schools, that's 25% of our schools that we serve. And so we have to maintain the level of investment from our general fund in those buildings, and we can't disproportionately take funds away from those 2 highest poverty schools.
So can you tell us what those 2 schools were?
We can. Brownell is our #1 school, and Pierce is #2. And so as we make decisions about staffing and leveling, we have to keep these things into consideration. This is a part of the formula.
Okay.
So I do want to clarify that we did ask the question is if we decided that we needed to consolidate buildings, would we be allowed to do so, taking this into consideration? And the answer was yes, we would just have to, again, go in and determine the poverty level of the remaining schools and ensure that in those remaining schools, we still don't disproportionately disadvantage those students.
Where are we with our Plant Moran Cressa? I know you told us, I know you done told us, Ms. Dunpray, 1,000 times, and we not blaming you. She told us, y'all. But every meeting, I gotta ask, because I can't remember, Ms. Dunpray.
Okay, so Plant Moran Cressa has completed the building utilization study. They completed that before school started. And what they're doing now is putting together the facility assessment so they can give us a capital plan. And then what they're going to do is provide that information to us as quickly as they can. And then I have asked them to be prepared to potentially do a presentation in September for the board to go over all the studies that they have done for us.
Not potentially.
I'm saying potentially September.
Oh, okay.
That's what I'm saying.
Potentially they might not have to come.
No, that's not what I was saying.
Yes, ma'am.
Potentially September is where I was going. The September board meeting is what I was saying.
Okay. Is there any? Oh, is it time for questions or no? I'm interrupting.
No.
I'm sorry.
No, we're gonna keep going, please.
Okay.
Okay. So one of the other things I wanted to mention is that while we're talking about maintenance of equity, one of the challenges that we are concerned about, and we have been speaking to MDE and Treasury about, is that we also have a maintenance of effort that we must adhere to. And that requires that we utilize 90% of our state and local funds contribute to the expenses that we have as a district. And so our concern is because we have so many federal funds now, and we are, our state and local funds are decreasing because we have a declining population, that it will be harder for us to be able to maintain this maintenance of effort because we have less local resources to use when we have so much federal funds. So I'm working with Treasury and MDE to try and see how do we ensure that this doesn't become a problem for us, a bigger problem for us, I shall say, because if we don't make our maintenance of effort, that decreases the amount of federal funds that we're eligible for.
Okay.
Because we're getting so much that could decrease our title allocation. So I just wanted to make you all aware of that.
Okay.
So I'm gonna keep going.
Yeah.
So another requirement for ESSER 3 is that that was not a part of ESSER 1 and ESSER 2, is that we do have the safe return to in-person instruction and continuity of services. that there's a reservation to address the academic impact of lost instructional time, and that maintenance of equity for high poverty schools, that's what we just discussed, and that there's a plan for use of the ARP, which is ESSER 3 funds. So now you will see the balances for our ESSER. So for ESSER 1, we were allocated 9.4 million. We have been reimbursed, because remember, these are reimbursement grants. We have been reimbursed 7.9, which means we still have 1.5 million left to use, and the deadline to utilize these funds is June 30th, 2022. We'll go on to ESSER 2. We have been allocated 19.2, 19.3. We have been reimbursed $14.7 million, and we still have 4.5 left to draw from. So realize that we still have the additional 25 million that will be allocated to us on or around August the 15th. And again, this is where we would have to be reimbursed. We have to spend it first and then be reimbursed for that. And we have until June 30th, 2023 to utilize those funds. For ESSER 3, the estimated amount, and I still use the word estimated because they haven't given us a final allocation, is for $99,352,858. And this has not been allocated to the district yet. So we do have around August 15th, they are going to release the application for us. And at that time, we will have to pull together how we intend to use the 20% for learning loss. Ooh. And then we'll have to put in a budget, and it has to be completed by November 15th.
I do want to just add one thing about these funds that is somewhat unique to us. These funds don't have carryover. So we've heard that as a term with Title I in our previous school years, that we have carryover. These grants have hard and fast dates that we have to adhere to. And so there is a tidings policy that goes along with each of the grants, which allows us an additional 12 months of spending outside of the grant cycle. However, those dates are those are the dates for the state. So we have an earlier date. So that's one of the difficulties as well when you have that conversation about new construction, because if you're not done, and we've all heard the term change orders in our group before on projects, but if that happens and you experience delays or pushbacks, the date of the end of the grant is the date of the end of the grant. There's no carryover, there's no opportunity to reallocate. So our plan has to be very concise, and we have to know exactly how we're going to approach and invest these funds in the timelines that we have, because there is no carryover period for these funds.
So I do want you to realize that the deadline for use of funds that I have on your slides incorporates the tidings period. So that's why it says through June 30th of 2024. That takes that into consideration, and that we don't get the entire year, but we get about 9 months. And so that's what's reflected on the slides. So for ESSER 3, we have until June 30th, 2024. The next slide shows the other CARES grants that we've had and the balances related to those. We had ESSER equity of I'm sorry, that's an error. I'm sorry, I updated these slides and this one did not get updated. That ESSER equity allocated number is not correct, and I can get it for you. I'll email it to you, and I'll update the slides and email it to you. So I apologize for that.
Okay,
I was
that's
trying to pull
fine.
this together rather quickly, so please
I
bear with me.
understand, that's fine, Ms.
Okay.
Dunphy. I understand what time restraints you were under.
So for the year, we had 379,289. We've been reimbursed 349,495. So we have 29,794 left, and we do have until June 30th, 2022. The 11P equity, we had 1.3 million. We've been reimbursed 1.1, and we have a little less than $200,000 left. The 103D2, we were allocated 46,000. We have been reimbursed 41, and we still have $5,000 left to spend. by June 30th,
Now, let
2022.
me ask you this, when you say reimbursed, we've already received the reimbursement or we waiting to be reimbursed?
We've already received the reimbursement.
Okay.
And then the last page contains the contact information for Kevin Walters and the other gentleman, Christopher May, who assisted with putting together this slide presentation. I added the last slide so it showed you the allocated amounts for ESSER. And the last thing you'll have in this packet was an email that Kevin sent to me showing some of the uses that we cannot use the ESSER funds for. This can be quite confusing because you may say, oh, it says no to bonuses and incentives. However, there are some caveats. So please note that for any bonus that we have provided to our staff, we ensured that we received approval before we spent that. We did not do anything without approval from NDE first, and they had to approve our budget once we put it in the system before we could spend those funds. And therefore, they had to approve it and for us to be able to draw it. I just want to be clear on that. Okay, now you can ask questions.
Okay. Ms. Green?
I have just a quick question, Ms. Domprey. I see that we could not use ESSER for bonus and incentives. So did we do it under hazard pay or something? Just out of curiosity.
So remember we did the workforce stabilization payments
Mm-hmm.
for the staff? Those payments, we had to get approval for before we could use the funds to do that.
So the category is what is it called? What is it?
Workforce stabilization payments.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for telling me that again. I appreciate it.
Okay.
So on our reimbursements, I'm sorry, go ahead, Ms. McNeil.
The question I have, we have 3 ESSER funds, and doing my research and reading, shouldn't we be posting this information public? So we don't have to, the public doesn't have to come here and try to see what is going on. Like the beginning of what ESSER 1 was, what, allocate what you kind of done with it, and where's those funds? Also, I know that when those funds come in, there's sometimes you can't spend it all. Are you guys, can you also put it in another, some type of funding account, roll those that you don't use, the funds that you're not utilizing? Or for instance, if it come in too late, are you getting any funds that's coming in too late for you to utilize it all?
So for the funds, we have to spend the money first and then we get reimbursed.
And when that money come back, it goes back in what, to your general fund account, or where does it go?
It goes back into our bank account because then it's cash that we have to spend, but it's not revenue.
So are you putting it in a particular fund account? That's what you're saying?
It's going into our general bank account. All of our funds come into our general bank account.
So what is your intake of putting this information out on a website, some of this information on the website for the public? Because once before, we had requested that when we're spending money, that so we don't have to tap the public time, if we have getting this information to the board, when you're spending these funds and we know how much you got and what's going out, we won't have to have these long out conversations. Is that possible?
So we present all our budgets to you ahead of time and get them approved. So I'm just trying to make sure I understand what you're requesting.
What I'm saying is that you have funds to come in. When those funds come in, I think we had mentioned this as the board, we need to try to be more inclusive as a board, how these funds have been spent. And I like doing things by working with you guys along the way, then coming to the board and trying to get information, kind of, and putting people on a spot. If we had this information from the beginning, if you say there's a certain amount of money came in your on the S1, and you spend this much of money out of S1, because my understanding that we have not spent any of the S3s. Have we spent any S3?
No, because we don't have access to ESSER 3 right now.
So we just using S1 and 2 to do a lot of things there.
Yes.
So then therefore, I think we probably could do a little bit better is how we get in this information, because what makes sense to you doesn't make sense to me at times. So what we're saying is that we want it to make sense for the board since we have to make these decisions. And if it doesn't make sense to us, you can also be voting against yourself. What we're saying that we need data that's a little bit clear for the board, and we can have that discussion because we done had that before. As we even talked about having some of the board member oversee and work with some of these ESSA funds, because the public wants to know. They wants to know what can the public gain from some of these programs, this money that's included. We talk about property, we talk about all of this, but the community doesn't see the benefit. So what kind of programs can the community get used and get in the after school programs they want? Do we have a certain amount of money in these funds that community directors could use to work some after school programs? And even when you read these documents on the website, they're kind of basis, they're not as clear as I would like to, but it talks a lot about poor people and poverty. And we know that we're the last one to get it. So looking at your ESSA funds, talking about these after school programs, learning programs, are there funds for after school program for the community based directors to use?
So I guess I want to make sure I'm understanding your request. One, I heard a request very clear is, can these funds be used for after-school programs or parent engagement programs? Is that correct?
Pretty much, and other use, as we noticed, the people was coming to the mic to speak. Those are what I call community directors. These are the people that are working with our communities. These are the people that already have after-school program working. And rather than using two, we seem to just stuck with these two organizations. That's why some of these people are here. They wants to know what is in those funds to help them move the community. And I think they can move the community a little bit quicker than some of the programs that we just already stuck on. So that's basically what some of the people here wants to hear. How can the little man get a hold of some of the money that the big guys getting to run these programs? And if you read those, when I was reading it, I was trying to figure out, is that possible?
If the administration and the board deemed that it was in an effort to address the learning loss that we acknowledge from our students have experienced due to COVID, that we would want to offer specific after-school programs, and we wanted to have contracted service providers that met the criteria or responded to bids to provide those services, if that was deemed appropriate, that might be a way. If they have reading intervention programs, I'll give an example. Recently, we posted an RFP for tutoring services for after school or outside of school time. So anyone is eligible to respond to those type of and submit a proposal to provide those services if they have the credentials to do so. Yes, ma'am. Yes. So,
Is there anyone I can get a copy of with those criteria? Can the board get a copy of those criteria?
absolutely. They're posted on our website. So Mrs. Wood already has a copy of those. She posts them on our behalf. So she has those and she can provide them to you.
And I'm glad you're explaining that so the public can hear that, because this is the last chance of money that the poor community would ever get. I was on a round table with Dan Kildee. This is a lot of money and Adrian, a lot of money coming to this community. And we had these round table conversation about these fundings coming here to this community and never getting to the boots on the ground to the bottom. So that's why I'm asking these questions, because we're having these round table conversation with the Congress and we're hearing what they're saying. But when the people here, not hearing what we hear. So we got to understand, we got to kind of make it common when we're speaking, we kind of speaking over their head. And I think it's only fair so they can get a clear understanding that, yes, I'm a part of the community in this here package. There is something for my organization. And I don't have to be a billionaire to get it. I don't have to know somebody that knows somebody. And that's basically what these people here are saying. So I would just appreciate sometime that when you're talking to the board or some of our people, they're not understanding. And we don't want them to leave frustrated like there's no hope.
Sure. I really work with Ms. Del Prey, and I like to use household examples because that's generally what we're all used to, managing our own household finances. So how can we relay this principle that is complicated, that is full of legislation, that is for the rules, how do we communicate that? So we're working on, as we're learning, because this is an airplane that's flying and is being built at the same time. So these rules and policies constantly change.
Yeah.
But we would definitely make an effort to use our academic board subcommittees as we bring things to that committee first to develop and make sure we have a clear understanding that there's a shared understanding.
Yeah, so the community just told me to ask you guys to do one thing, make it make sense to them. And that's what we're feeling, that we're not making it make sense to them. And as the community relation, Danielle and I, when we go out in the public, we want it to make sense. We want to be able to say exactly what it is, A, B, C, and D. And we know they're not going to read what you just given us. So we need to kind of figure out how to make it make sense to the public.
So these funds are these, this is not something that will be available to the public. I think it's first level education and secondary education, right?
Yes, this is for education. It's not it has to be
Okay.
related to COVID and helping the students recover from the learning loss that was experienced due to the pandemic.
Right, okay.
It's not, that's what it has to relate to.
Okay, I got you. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
No, that's what I'm just like, what?
Okay, so you're not just using them to open programs, it has to be particularly for learning.
Yes,
Only if that's something deemed, somebody in the community offers a program that as a district, we deem this service is needed for our students. So if it's a social work service or trauma or whatever's deemed the needs of the students have to drive the use of the funds. It's not because I want to introduce something new. The needs of the students have to drive the purpose and intent of the fund.
Okay. Okay, just making sure I was understanding. Thank you.
Trying to get my mic. Okay, great. I just have two questions. One is a clarifying question as it relates to the ESSER 3 funds. You all mentioned at least 20% that has to be used towards the loss of learning. And is that 20% total between now and 2024, or is that 20% per year? Because kind of the grant deadlines kind of threw me off a little bit.
It's the total budget. So
Okay.
of the 99 million, we have to put together how we intend to spend that 20 million
Yeah.
first.
And then just speaking just quite candidly, for a school district that was virtual for a majority of the year, we're not like other school districts. So 9 times out of 10 are probably more than 20% as we're talking about the loss of learning potentially that again, I don't want to put words in you all's mouth. You all are the experts, but that's what it feels like. Potentially that it may be that, but I'll wait to see the final plan. My second question was just the role so I know we're having conversations as a board, we're engaging with you and also hearing from community, but I'm also concerned and I want to make sure that we're also hearing from students as it relates to, the plans that we're putting together and potentially what it is that they will want to see, because ultimately they're going to be the ones that are impacted by the decisions that we make. So I definitely want to make sure that student voice is captured in this conversation. It was actually something it came out of the state's recommendation of their COVID education recommendation that they put out, and they talked about student voice and the vital role that should play in terms of another stakeholder that should be considered for value input as we're talking about, again, a plan moving forward and, again, truly reimagining what could be for our school district.
One thing I will say that Mrs. Stewart was very intentional about that when we were meeting in groups around the strategic plan. And she hosted and facilitated the session specifically with the students that we serve to make sure that we heard them and we knew what their pressing needs were and what they wanted from us as a school district. And so really that work that we've done, the plans that Mr. Jones has presented monthly to the board has really positioned us very well to move on to the next step of ESSER 3. When we had that conversation with Kevin, he was like, everything that you all have done, the recovery plan, the continuity of learning plan, the work that you've done in your strategic plan committees has really positioned us to get the stakeholder input that we need to develop this plan. So I don't see that intentionality going away. So I wanted to lift that, but we hear you and we'll continue to move in that direction.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions from any other board members concerning our ESSER So we could very well get our electrical work done with our ESSER funds, huh?
When you say electrical, I know you and I talked earlier, and we also talked about the access points.
Yes.
Because we had, during the pandemic, students were getting kicked out of technology. Is that what you're speaking to, Board President?
And all the electrical issues, because they was getting kicked out the technology, to my understanding, because our electrical circuits couldn't hold our technology.
Mhm.
So yeah, we need something to hold the technology, to hold the air conditioning, to hold my cell phone being plugged up, my
Mhm.
dorm refrigerator to keep my water cold.
Mhm. So, good news. Um, we have been waiting on the 255 access points to arrive to the district. And due to things being held up over the summer and us not being able to get supplies and materials as we normally would have, the 255 access points arrived to the district this week. And so Vartec and Sentinel have been working together to develop a plan to replace the old antiquated access points with the new updated access points. And so that is great news for our staff and our kiddos as far as them getting kicked out of technology. Once those access points have been changed out, we should no longer be getting kicked out of technology. The other electrical issues that Board President was just speaking of, as far as the electrical wires, the lights, the plugs, we had been holding off on spending our ESSER funds until after the facilities assessment arrived. And then once that data arrived and we shared that data with the board, then the board can make a decision based upon the buildings that we have. Do we want to spend all our money on all 11 buildings? Or based upon the facilities assessment, do we want to just look at putting money into, and I'm just throwing this out there, this number does not exist because the board hasn't made any decision. But based upon the facilities assessment, we only want to use our ESSER funds to remodel, renovate, update 6 of the 11 buildings. So just really wanting to be strategic about how we spend our money versus just spending it all and then looking back in 5 years saying, where did that money go? But whatever the motion action the board makes, it's my job to implement your actions. But that's what we've been saying all along as far as the spending of the ESSER funds.
Okay, Ms. McIntyre?
So I have two points to make. The first is that about, you said something about student input in terms of ESSER funds. And do you have any data about how many students were asked and in what ways? Like, so do you have some quantitative data in terms of like who was, or how many students were reached and the, in what ways? Because I'm getting feedback from the community that of dissatisfaction with just, I mean, this is just anecdotal. And since we're data driven, it would be good to see some of the numbers like backing up this claim of input. Because I'm hearing a lot of dissatisfaction about input, specifically when it comes to students and when it comes to parents. And I've been really wanting more community input because the one session that I attended was capped at 30 and there seemed to be some communication and it was really difficult to register and to sign up. And if that's an indication of like what the other sessions were like, I mean, I can understand some of the frustration in terms of people wanting to have more input and having some roadblocks along the way. So I'm wondering how those complaints were addressed, because as far as I know, I didn't see anything. So I'm just wondering about community input, because I mean, I hear you saying that there was, but I don't see any tangible data to back that up. And then the second thing is for the workforce stabilization payments. I see what we can and cannot use the ESSER funds for, and it seems to me that even though we got MDE approval for these workforce stabilization payments, that we are possibly at risk for jeopardizing the status of those, given the fact that the teachers still have not received those workforce stabilization payments, and the contract has been signed. It was signed on the 5th, and they're going to have to wait till the end of this month. Why have those stabilization payments not been released immediately? Why have those district employees not received those payments, if indeed they are workforce stabilization payments related to ESSER and not tied to the contract and not being used as like a bludgeoning tool for negotiations?
In the teacher's contract, they're using the term bonus. So do you want to say bonus? Because if it was workforce bonus, then in the teachers' union contract, if they hadn't changed it, we saw the word bonus. So what is it? What is it actually is the term? If I making sense.
It's a workforce stability.
So in the teacher's contract, what term did we use? Did we use that word in the contract? And that, it's in that, yeah, I hope. I saw it somewhere.
I'm gonna get that payment. And I don't want it to be August 31st.
No, we still want to get the wording clear.
Yeah.
They said
Wording
it's
clear.
another word, it's not bonus, it's another word they're using, but that's what it says in the
Yeah, but it
contract.
also says bonus. There's some slippage.
It's still, but it's still the workforce stability bonus. It's still the payment. It's the workforce stability payment.
Okay, and
Is
that's
what
where
it
the bonus
relates.
overlaps? Because I was confused with using the term bonus. I thought we couldn't use
Yeah, that's
the
what we
word
was told.
bonus,
Nice.
but we can?
So when we requested permission from MDE, we told them that we were going to be giving our staff stabilization bonuses, stabilization bonus payments in order to stabilize our workforce so that the students could recover from learning loss.
So then why haven't the teachers been paid that yet? Why haven't the teachers received their workforce stabilization bonus payments?
You haven't approved their contract yet. It's coming before you tonight. It has to be approved at the board meeting, just like the other payments were approved at the board meeting.
And why is the date August 31st and not
It has to
immediately?
be after you approve it, and the next pay period is after the meeting.
And this wasn't urgent enough to have like a special board meeting? I'm very disappointed with it just seems like there's an attitude that this is important to people. This is, a mortgage payment. You guys got your bonuses, the teachers didn't. And it just seems like it's just another delay. And that there's not, there's some great reasons for it, but maybe show a little bit more concern or compassion about it, or, wow, I'm really sorry that it's not getting paid out in a timely way.
We gotta vote on it. We gotta vote on it. So that's what we're gonna do tonight. We gotta vote on it, so. Are there any other
Well, we
questions?
got to vote on it, and when it came up, I was going to make a motion.
Well, okay, well, were
I
they
just-
in the
but we
middle, wait a minute,
need
hold
to
on.
clarify the language too. I want
Well,
to make
they in the
sure.
middle of, they're still in the middle. Are you guys concluded? Are you still working? Okay, are there any other? Okay, go ahead. Let's
Okay,
get-
so that is your next two packets, and what I wanted you to see.
Okay, wait a minute, go ahead. Question.
Was supposed to talk about that in our subcommittee meeting. We never had this discussion to bring it before. We're waiting on to have it so the Treasury Subcommittee could get an understanding before you speak. So I would like to get support that we suspend this conversation until we do our subcommittee meeting.
Is
You
that-
referring to the debt millage payments?
Yeah, until we have a conversation about it, because we didn't know, the treasurer wasn't aware of what it's about, neither were I, so.
I was asked, it was told me that the board requested that I bring this information. That's the only reason why I brought it.
Well,
Okay, so hold on. So what I'm hearing is unreadiness. So what we can do is table this discussion until the subcommittee
Absolutely.
has an opportunity to vet the information and then bring it back to the board. So it's
Not a problem.
finance, yes.
And then
We have to make a motion to do that though. So Dr. Joyce, do you want to make the motion?
yes, I'm making a motion.
And I will second it.
Okay.
It has been moved and properly seconded that we table discussion concerning the millage update till after it is discussed in the subcommittee meeting. Is there any further discussion? Danielle, did you want to say
Not in
something?
reference to that, but, what she talked about before, you were talking about.
Okay, let's take the vote on this then. When I call your name, we're gonna take a roll call vote to table discussion on the millage monies until it goes before the finance subcommittee. So when I call your name, yes or no to support. McIntyre,
yes.
Green,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
McNeil,
Yes,
and it's a yes for me. So the conversation will be tabled till after the financial subcommittee has the opportunity and Ms. Dunpray to go over the information. Okay, Ms. Green, what was your question?
I'm not sure who would answer this question, but I'm just glad to hear we cancel the schools tomorrow because of the heat, because my phone can stop ringing off the hook, waking me up in the morning. But we didn't talk specifics when it came to the air conditioners. I understand it's phases that it goes through, and we are in phase 2, going into phase 3 is what I was told. I'm not sure if that's 100% correct either. But so with that being said, when do we expect to get the buildings cool enough so people can, function properly? Because I've been getting that all week, and I appreciate you guys being active on, shutting it down.
Thank you. All right.
And Eisenhower specifically, oh man, it's like a sauna.
Mhm. So the work with the air conditioners at all of the schools were kind of held up over the summer because supplies and materials
Okay.
were on back order
Okay.
and were not coming in as we had anticipated them coming in. And even if, we were working with one company and they didn't have them, we reached out to another company, they didn't have them. So that just kind of pushed everything back.
Right.
In speaking with board president, I have asked JCI, Johnson Control, they're the ones that are doing the work, to come to the board next week and to
Okay.
give an update on where they are for all of our school buildings.
Okay.
Okay.
Good.
Yes, ma'am. In the meantime, going back to the work with Johnson Controls, the proposal that was implemented for the work with Johnson Controls left out 2 schools,
Right.
Southwestern and DTM. The last board meeting that we were at, had discussed with the board moving portable air conditioners to Southwestern and to DTM. In the meantime, during the month of August, it's hot. We're behind schedule with the work with Johnson Control. So I have been talking to board president about purchasing portable air conditioners for all of our classrooms until Johnson Control can get the air conditioning systems up working in all of our schools. In doing some research, we found portable air conditioners that would be suitable for the square footage of our classrooms. I shared the information with board president, and of course, to be able to purchase the number that we need, it puts me over my threshold. I have a threshold of 5,000 that I can do, and then I'll need board approval. And so I was talking to board president about that, and either we could walk on a quote next week, or a motion could be made that we could go forth with motion and action by the board could be made so that we can go forth with purchasing the portable air conditioner. So not really sure the direction that the board would like to go in. But I did send out an email to principals because some of our schools already have window and portable air conditioners that were donated 2 years ago as well as last year we had Home Depot donated some, and then we also had some of our over the summer, tailgates. Some of our schools who do tailgates, they also collected some funds to be able to purchase air conditioners for some of our schools. So some of our schools already have the window and portable air conditioners. Now I'm just collecting the data of the number of classrooms that still do not have any, so that those could be the ones that we could purchase the portable air conditioners for to get us through Johnson Control.
So I would like to make a motion that we do whatever we can as soon as we can to get some air in there for those babies and the staff. So I would make a motion
And
for that.
second it because I was gonna have to make the motion, so I'm glad you made the motion. Good.
Thank you. That was next.
It has been moved and properly seconded. Superintendent did speak with me at the beginning of the meeting about these air conditionings and maybe some fans for the hallway, but we do want to give her the flexibility and this district the flexibility to do what we have to do to try and at least make it decent for our students. And since we have these extra funds, I think that's what the allocation is all about. So I'm glad to hear that we're gonna make that happen. So is there any further discussion? Because we're gonna have to take a roll call vote. Seeing there's no further discussion as I call your name, answer yes to support or no not to support getting the room air conditionings for the district to move forward. McIntyre,
Yes.
Ms. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Walker,
Yes.
Ms. McNeil,
Yes.
and it's a yes for me. So we have 5 yes, 2 absent to get to allow Superintendent Stewart to move forward with getting the rooms air conditioning units for the district.
So if I could.
Go ahead.
So realistic time frame, we look at, I know it's still work to do and I understand that, but I'm just trying to figure out, just a little time frame to give somebody something to hold on to.
So there's a company that we found who stated that they could have at least 100 of them shipped and delivered to us by early next week. And so hopefully, we can have those units shipped to us by early next week. Our CFO just sent me a text, and she just stated that depending on the amount, we may have to do an RFP. So I'm hoping that we have enough portable air conditioners in the district that we do not have to purchase one for every single classroom, and that brings our amount down some. And if that brings our amount down some, we'll be fine. But if there are any legal issues that we have to work through, I'll be sure to keep you guys updated with an email.
Thank you very much.
Do we think that we can possibly, let me do this portion too. Now the board, let me ask this first. Do we want to look at, do we need to be trying to get an RFP together to at least get the electrical done on one school building? And maybe that'll stop us from having to buy air conditioning units, but it would depend on the amount to get it. So we'll have that discussion tomorrow, you and I, and then we'll bring it back. And if we have to have an emergency board meeting pertaining to this, because our babies are suffering, so we might have to do an emergency meeting to get this. And with the COVID going up, we don't know if we're going to end up virtual learning. Okay, Ms. McNeil.
I know we're in the midst of making a motion, but when we start talking about air conditioning, they go together. The electrical problem and the air conditioning goes together. We're used to putting air conditioning in the school, and you're going to have all kind of power issues.
So we have to combine those together in most cases because we still, you got to
Yeah,
go
because
back.
the room unit gonna kill the power as well. So we didn't think about that. Okay. Okay, so we gotta get on our electrical issue ASAP, because we still gonna suffer either
So
way.
even while we're looking at the air conditioning, because we had these funds for a while, and now the school is in a disaster. No paint on the wall, the driveways, no air conditioning, electrical problem. And here we are in school, and we had all of these issues. And now we got to deal with parents sending kids home, and we don't even know they're gonna come back with this COVID. But these are things we should have done. So let's expedite the electrical work and the air conditioning goes together. If we can look at it that way. While waiting on the air conditioning, could we be looking at getting that electrical work done in those most hardest hit area schools? And we know who they are.
Okay, so what we gotta do is possibly make a motion for a special board meeting, maybe, because I'm winging it, because we're freestyling it here. So what I'm thinking is going to have to happen, if we're gonna move expeditiously to get some electrical work done, then we would need a special board meeting so we could vote and put an RFP out there to get that done. Or are we voting now to work on electrical immediately and get an RFP? Okay, at this time, I'd like to make a motion to start electrical work on our buildings, going with the buildings that are most in need first. And this includes filing any RFPs necessary to get the work done. Um, so I'm moving and I'm gonna need some support. I moved it, I need you to support me. Okay, so the motion was to start on our electrical, and that includes RFPs on our buildings that need it most. We're working from the most drastic to the least needed. And that's where we'll start, and with our RFPs. And if we have to get with Ms. Prey and Ms. Murphy and our team to look at our dollars and get them lined up like we should, then that's what we need to do. We have to, because we're in a double urgency, because even if the heat breaks, if COVID rages and we end up face-to-face learning, we're still shut down because our babies can't, and our teachers can't keep the connection to educate our babies. So we are on a double-edged sword, so I think that would be the best for the district. Is there any discussion around that?
Yes, it's this ESSA is coming out of ESSA 3, or we have to wait for 3? Where's the funds coming from to get?
It can come out of all ESSER funds, can
Can
it?
it?
Okay, that's what I thought.
Okay.
It could come from any ESSER funds. Okay, at this time, is there any further discussion as it pertains to this? Would you like to say anything, Ms. Stewart, Mr. Kaplan? Come back to us, Mr. Kaplan. Okay, so seeing that we have no further discussion, I'm gonna take a roll call vote to move forward to get our electrical work done and move forward with our RFPs to get electrical work done. As I call your name, say yes to support or no not to support. Ms. McIntyre,
Yes.
Ms. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Walker,
Yes.
Ms. McNeil,
Yes.
and it's a yes for myself. It passes 5 yes, 2 absent. At this time, the board will hear any comments from the public. If you have a script, please turn it into the board's executive assistant, Ms. Monica Elston. We ask that you state your reason for addressing the board and that you limit your remarks to 3 minutes on the matters within the jurisdiction of the board and not address individuals by name. The presiding officers of the board shall have the right to limit the number of persons who may address the board on the same subject. Members of the public are reminded that the board, by its bylaws 1370, is not under obligation to answer questions, make comments, or statements in response to issues raised by the public. In general, such issues will be referred to the superintendent for investigation, study, or recommendation. Audience members are reminded to say their name and their address, and if you and the appropriate group or in the appropriate group that they represent, employees of the board and representatives of employees, organizations, and/or unions, and students should exhaust administrative procedures before addressing the board on matters for which administrator reviews are provided. You are solely responsible for the content of your public statement. Is there anyone here from the public who wish to address the board? Betty Nordstrom.
board. I'm actually coming in front of the board in two capacities, one as a parent and one as a PAC representative. I'd ask for 3 minutes for each capacity if possible. Is that all right?
The board will grant that.
All right, the first thing I will do is come here as a parent. Today, well, Monday, my son eloped from school, from DTM. He went down 2 flights and out a side door, was not seen on camera or in person by anyone. He was found at Kettering University playing in traffic. I'm sorry, this is really hard for me. There are no alarms on our exit doors. There is not enough cameras in our schools to cover this. Why? Why in an elementary school where that my child attends, that any child attends, whether they're special needs or not, can a child walk down 2 flights and walk out the door? That's a safety hazard. Even kids who don't elope, who are normal, could easily walk out that door and be gone. And we don't live in the safest of communities. Something needs to be done immediately. I can't have this happen again. I've also had the issue, which has been brought to everybody's attention. I was told that I could get a letter from the board or Ms. Stewart stating that my children missing school was not of any fault of my own, and that it could be sent to the courts and myself. This has not happened. And it has been months. I have to go back to court on the 24th for this. I don't have time. So I'd ask the board to please take care of these things. As a parent, I need my kids to be safe. Now I would like to talk as a PAC member, as your PAC representative. I am severely worried about the fact that when I asked why the police weren't allowed access to the cameras, I was given several different responses. Nobody in administration seemed to know what was going on with cameras. No one. Nobody in administration seemed to know what was happening. And when I said that I was taking this to the board, I was told by someone at LSS not to do it. That I should not bring this to the board. That is my job, is to make sure the things are taken care of and these children are taken care of. And how many other parents are told not to bring it to the board, not to go above somebody's head, that they'll take care of it and it doesn't happen? I'm also having issues with just getting basic information, such as how much is going to special education funding and where in special education is this going? How are we going to help these children in special education recover from the year without COVID? and I can't get this information. I have been asking for 2 months. And I have been following the chain of command of who I have to report to and where I have to report for that. And I am having these issues of not being able to do my job because I can't get the information that I need. So I don't know what can be done by the board for that, but something needs to be done. Thank you very much for your time.
Yes,
And
ma'am. Thank you.
I hope something can be done to help these children.
Yes, we'll look into it, and I guess I'll ask the administration and Mo, can we get a letter drafted up for her so that she can take it to court on the 24th? It seems like, I mean, is it possible? Is it a reason why we're not? Okay. All right, we'll deal with this on the backside. Thank you very much. Next we have, is there anyone else who'd like to make a comment to the board? Please come up to the podium, ma'am. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ajane Young. My address is 909 Wager Avenue. I actually wanted to just raise to the board first and say thank you all for being able to advocate for the community to acquire properties from the district. And hearing some of y'all talk tonight, I definitely don't want my words to be minced or misconstrued, because it sounds like there's a lot of passion for community on that stage. However, I did want to raise a concern around equity in the process for acquiring these properties, recognizing that there's sort of a few months of a timeline that the district would like to unload these properties, but there's no clear structure from my interpretation on how the public goes about doing that. And at the end of the year, after multiple people from the community have navigated a not so clear system, it'll be opened up to larger organizations who will then have an opportunity to come through possibly a more refined process. And to me, that does not seem equitable. And so I strongly urge the board to be able to think very strongly about what that process should look like, how to share that information to the community. And I understand that the call has already been put out there, but maybe that's an opportunity for some of the meetings as the website is being put together and things to really think about what that process should look like and how folks can be clear on that. Because to me, it doesn't make sense to expect someone who's maybe new to this, who doesn't have the background and a team of lawyers and people to help them go through this process, to expect them to navigate a system that's not quite established yet. But then later down the line, once there's bigger players coming to the table, there's going to have been some learning on the district's end on how to navigate this. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other board members? And seeing there is none, there have been 3 emails that have been received. I will read them for all of you to hear. Okay. Good afternoon. Thank you for reading this letter, as this meeting is being held while teachers are in PD and the Whiting. I want to take this time to thank you, the new Board of Education, for speaking out at the last board meeting. It truly made me feel valued. The fact that you asked if the bonuses were tied to our negotiations and you stated it should not be meant the world to me and others. Of course, everyone who was receiving the bonus received it except teachers. I am not writing to discuss this, as I know you are working hard behind the scenes to change this and other things in the district. I am writing this to say thank you for making me and others feel valued at least for a moment. Teachers will do whatever it takes to make things work in the district as long as we feel valued. But without this, we all know there can't be a district without teachers. Once again, thank you. Cynthia Nicholas. Yes, that is so true, and thank you, Ms. Nicholas. The next email says, Flint Board of Education. I have been a teacher in Flint now for over 30 years. I am so thankful that this board is supporting us in meeting the earliest possible time they could get, taking time out of your day to support us with an emergency meeting. The district has had over a year to get a contract worked out as ours expired in June of 2020. Thank you for recognizing this as well as making me feel encouraged to continue teaching for years to come. I believe in Flint schools and I love teaching. The rest, I am just happy to have your support. It has been a long time coming and means so much. Thank you, Leanne Rawls. And last but not least, and this is a little writing, so I'm gonna be really slow on, ooh, it's little, and I already can't see nothing. Let me see here. I'm under the impression this needs to be read at today's meeting. 5 years I came to Dora Ryder for my school home. The staff was wonderful and I truly thought I had found where I would retire. 5 years later, I'm still waiting on the whiteboard I requested back then. This past summer, a grant was written with a specific request for smart board in the music room. Where is it? The cafeteria. This leaves the music room with our speakers, da 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 da, but the music can't be played. Pay, I've always worked 2 to 3 jobs just to survive. When a new pay scale is released 5 years later, there is still no difference in my pay. Bonuses to entice me to stay. No, they are given to everyone but teachers. It is wonderful the board is supporting teachers. They are realizing that with our quality teachers, you do not have a quality school. I have been offered a job twice the pay, more resources and less responsibility. Has has Flint Point Community Schools given me one reason to stay? No. Thank you for listening. Melissa Katona. Okay. Well, Miss Melissa, I hope we can pick it up and encourage you to stay. We don't want to lose anybody, so thank you for those emails. Next, the Human Resource Committee. We will hear from the Human Resource Committee as a whole, and I'm looking for Mr. Walker to handle that part, so I will now turn the floor over to Trustee Walker for the Human Resources Committee of a whole meeting.
I would like to call the Human Resources Committee of the whole meeting to order. I will now call upon Ms. Rubin to present action items to the board.
Good evening, Board. Human Resource Committee action items. I seek a motion and a second to move action item 1.4, personnel recommendations with a noted correction to page 3 to the regular board meeting on August 18, 2021 for adoption. The noted correction on page 3 is that we received an updated resignation for Mr. McDaniels, and his new resignation date will be updated to September 3rd.
So the first resignation, that's.
So is he staying? Okay,
He just changed his resignation date.
okay.
Yeah, so we need a motion in a second.
I seek a motion and a second.
Second.
It has been moved and properly seconded. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, the motion to move action. Oh, sorry.
I did.
Sorry, Trustee McIntyre.
I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
So I don't even know how to put this. I'm kind of concerned with the recommendations, the 2 recommendations, given that we're a school district, and I guess the quality of the the resumes. I'm not on the search committees, but if I were to look at either of these resumes, I'm just kind of astonished that there's some typos and formatting issues. I mean, and I'm not trying to nitpick and everything, but we're a school board and we're teaching job skills and literacy and all sorts of computer skills to people. And we're recommending a principal who's, I'm just kind of surprised. Let's just put it like that. So I'm concerned that this candidate, and I don't know any of the people that were, like I said, I'm not on the committee, but there were 9 applications and this is the best one that we have. I'm not going to be recommending that this move forward because I'm a little concerned, like I said, about what I see. I'm also concerned because I'm still not clear what the overall structure of the positions are. And so I don't know how to make this a motion that, can we have a special board meeting or add to the special board meeting that, are we going to have a special board meeting about the RFP and no? I think we need to have a discussion about having an interim HR. We need to really maybe redouble our efforts at bolstering our HR department, because I'm just concerned about the hiring process. We need to have some discussions. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. Yeah.
Trustee Ms. McNeil.
I understand exactly what you said. I know.
I'm trying to be delicate.
No, I know exactly what you said. This is blue, this is white. And we got to stop pretending that these personnel stuff comes in a bundle. And they shouldn't come in a bundle because we made a couple of regretful mistakes, because when they come in a bundle, we can't decipher from who to who. We have asked that several times. So I don't want to hold one person back because somebody put something in a bundle. And that's not how you should do this as an HR person. You should be able to say what you want to say and feel free. This is the board. We see some things wrong in your HR department. As an HR person, I see several things wrong. And then we come here and make an HR decision when we know as board members what the problem are. Now, this is my recommendation that we look through this one by one. What we don't want to prove, we can table it or just not approve it. But just pushing it over here, then we get into another meeting, we full of distraction, and you don't know what, you're not giving time to vet or understand anything, because we have a dysfunctional in this administration when it comes to HR. We got too many plaints coming to this favoritism, not fair practice, and coming to this board, and we have to pretend that we don't know that this exists. I'm just one board member. It exists. This is blue. This is white. We don't really trust the data anymore. So what do we do, Madam President?
Well, you have the right to,
Yeah.
you have the right to say that you have unreadiness and that you're going to table it
Okay.
until
And that's where I'm
further
at, and I agree
discretion
with
and
you.
until we can get with the administration and get a better understanding if it's an issue that the board is not going to support. Because at this point, if you don't support it and you don't support it, then we don't have what we need to push it through anyway. So no need in wasting the administration or the board's time if you guys know you're not going to support it.
So I'd like to make a motion that we have some kind of a discussion or an agenda item where we look at, the resignations have come up before, the sheer number of resignations. I mean, I know that I've asked in months previous about exit interviews, and I understand that that's being said that we do exit interviews. I clearly don't think they're being effective because we are still having a resignation problem. including the individual who wrote an email is one of the individuals who's resigning here. And we are hemorrhaging talent. We are hemorrhaging talent. And in the meantime, we're hiring people that I'm not confident are by the papers that
Okay.
I'm seeing in front of me
Okay,
are
okay,
qualified. So
okay.
we need to have a discussion about this.
Adrian, what's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so I'm just trying to, again, gather everything and trying to figure out, are we making a motion to table action item 1.4? Or are we making, again, a motion to also, it sounds like the motion is also to look to have further discussion, but those two I feel like need to be taken up separately, if that is the case.
I missed that second part because you talked.
No, I'm sorry. It sounds like the second piece is to have more of a robust conversation about personnel as well. So I'm hearing two motions.
Okay.
But again,
That sounds about
yeah.
right.
So I'll
think that
start
would make
with.
sense.
All right. I'll start with the motion that has been put out there by you, Ms. McNeil, in regards to potentially tabling 1.4, action item 1.4.
And when we table something, we have to know when we're going to readdress it, though. You can't just table it and have it. Is that true, Mo?
So he's
You have a motion and a second on the floor to accept 1.4.
Right.
To move it to the top. But I like.
Right. That was the motion. And it was seconded.
It was
And you
seconded.
made the motion and I seconded. Is that what happened?
yeah.
Yeah.
So we would have to take that back, you and I.
Motion, you seconded. I need to know if you guys are going to now.
Rescind.
Yes.
It is not gonna pass no way.
Yeah, I get it. Okay, I rescind my motion.
Okay.
And-
So that
and I-
motion has
and I-
been rescinded.
And I rescind my second so that we can have further discussion to move the
Okay.
administration and the board and the district forward as it concerns our personnel recommendations. And we are going to discuss this as a board when.
So we're just on the table 1.4.
Right. Tabling 1.4 until when, though?
And is that, are we tabling all of the personnel recommendations till we can have a more robust discussion with the administration and get a conclusion that because we got to be able to move forward if we're going to come to the board table with it. So that means everybody should be involved so that we can be on one accord. So can we get something like that to happen, Ms. Stewart and Ms. Georgina?
Are we tabling the whole thing or are we tabling pieces? What are we doing?
That's-
That's what I don't understand.
I would be-
Is it to table the whole thing or
1.4.
table pieces?
Oh, we're gonna table the whole thing?
We're going to table the whole,
Do
let's
you
table.
want to, you want to let go of some that you're okay with?
I'm okay with everything except the two administrative.
Let's table the whole thing and have
Table
a
the whole
real
thing.
discussion.
So we don't have to, okay.
And we have a real discussion.
Trustee Green, go ahead.
So the conversation that we'll have later on or whatever, it'll include talking about the HR and the position. It'll include all that stuff. Yeah, because that's,
Right,
okay.
right.
Just
So,
wanted to make
so the motion that I'm hearing is to table 1.4 to have a more robust conversation about, again, everything HR related, including the
Yep.
positions that are on the table. But again, I heard the motion, but I need a second.
Second.
It has been moved and properly seconded. Is there any further discussion in regards to this piece?
That's, I mean, that's,
So, and those teachers need to be hired and working by when?
well, the effective date is August 3rd.
What's today, August?
So are they already working?
Past August 3rd.
They are with the, I guess is my understanding, teachers can go ahead and go through with the understanding that normally teachers normally go through. We don't hold
Okay,
teachers
so
up.
since the teachers are already working and we're tabling discussion, we'll let them do what they usually do and we'll have the discussion.
Okay.
Because they're already, go ahead, Ms. McNeil.
So you're saying that we're approving the teachers?
No, we're not approving them. We tabling everything, but the teachers are already working. So I'm saying we're not gonna bother them unless some comes out in the wash and you guys decide you don't want the teachers for whatever reason. Because they haven't been approved by the board.
And
But
that's what we normally just go ahead and start them with the understanding that during board meeting,
they will be
Teachers
approved.
normally go through.
So let's let them work and let's not bother them. And go ahead, Ms. Green.
My question
I'm
is,
sorry, I'm sorry.
No,
I'm
you're
sorry.
good, you're
Oh, I'm
good,
sorry.
you're good, you're good. Go ahead,
So
trustee Green.
how would it affect the teachers that are already working? I know we're gonna let them continue to work, but would it affect them in any negative way that we should be informed about without, us as a board approving it?
I don't know if it's any negative way,
Okay.
other than if we don't come back around soon to
Right.
approve it, then it could affect them.
Okay, because we don't want to do that.
Yeah,
Okay,
so that's why I was asking, when would we come back around?
Yeah, when we coming back around.
Clarification.
yeah.
Well,
That's why can't we like amend it to just
Approve the
approve the
teachers. That's what
teachers?
I'm thinking. we
Yeah.
should do.
That's what I
okay.
was
Well,
saying.
Yeah, I think
Motion approve the
Oh, y'all
teachers.
man, we up tonight. We doing bad tonight. Okay.
All right, so.
Ms. Rubin would like to say something. Go
Go
ahead,
ahead,
Ms.
Georgina.
In the past, there has been a motion can be made by a board member to section out.
Right.
I do recall that
Oh,
that has
absolutely.
happened
Oh,
in the
yeah,
past.
absolutely.
So you can say, somebody can make a motion, a board member can
Yeah,
make a
just let the
motion
teachers pass. I
to
was
just take out just the administrators, because we need to move forward with the resignations and retirements, the
Okay.
resignation piece.
Okay, so hold on. Hold on. Rewind it. Okay, so we're gonna accept our resignations. And I'm asking the board so we can come to a collective agreement. So we're gonna accept the resignations and the teachers and table everything else. Is that what I'm hearing?
We take that out too, or?
No.
But, right, I know what that means, but
So just table the administrators.
Yeah,
There you
so
go.
that's what it sounds like. We're tabling the administrators and everything else is moving forward to our next board
Yeah,
meeting.
there you go.
Yep. It's, but again, so that's totally new. So again, the motion has been made, but I feel like it definitely needs a second for that piece to again, table the administration piece and then again, move forward with everything else for our next, board meeting next week.
Okay.
It has been moved and properly second. Any further discussion?
Hope not.
Seeing none, as I call your name, please reply, yes or no to approve. Trustee McNeil,
Yes.
trustee McIntosh,
Yeah.
trustee Perry's absent, Ms. Green, trustee Green,
Yes.
trustee McIntyre,
Yes.
and trustee Wright is absent, and myself is a yes. So that is 5 yes with 2 absent, so the motion passes. Please continue, Ms. Rubin.
I seek a motion and a second to move action item 1.5, resolution to accept letter of agreement and issue payments to the regular board meeting on August 18, 2021 for adoption.
Second.
It has been moved and properly seconded. Is there any discussion?
Yes, I would like to amend that motion to approve it tonight and to issue payment immediately.
Yeah, but then you got the support. You got the support. She needs the support then.
Support.
Okay, and
It has been moved and properly seconded that to add the payment in for immediate action. Correct?
Is it my understanding they can be paid this Friday?
wait a minute, because you got your budget people.
Yeah, that's what I was looking. Yes, go ahead, Ms. Humphrey.
There is no opportunity to pay them before the August 27th next payroll. That's why we have said.
That was,
before
that's the
August 31st.
payroll cycle.
Yeah,
That's,
payroll
remember, even if we voted on it, it wasn't gonna make it to the next cycle.
Is there any way we can cut them their payment check, given that we messed up and tied their bonus to the negotiation process? Is there any way that the teachers can get paid their bonus before August 31st? So is there any way Is there any way they can get paid before August 27th?
I cannot guarantee that, no.
So there's just nothing we can do to get the teachers the bonus before the 27th of August is what you're saying?
Any further discussion? Oh, Trustee McNeil?
Oh, no.
Oh, okay, I saw your hand. All right, any further discussion?
Well, I would like to say that I'm just, I'm sorry to the teachers, to the staff. You know, whether it was an honest mistake or anything else, you know, I truly apologize and for any way that it may seem that you're being treated unfairly and unjustly. It's not, I'm just so outraged right now that this has happened and that we're in a situation like this. I just have to say it. I just have to say it. I'm very disappointed and angry.
Trustee Green?
I understand, we wish they could get paid right now, today. I understand with the explanation of Ms. Domprey, because of the way things fall with payroll, it's not possible. It's not personal.
Sure.
We want the teachers to get paid, but we can't always get what we want when we want it. So thank you for the explanation, Ms. Domprey. It's very clear to me why it's not happening. And I hope the teachers understand that we don't particularly care for it, but that's just the way the dates fell. I don't think it was a mistake on anybody's part or oversight. It's just the way the dates fell and paydays fell. At least that's what I got out of the explanation.
Well, I think it's very clear how
I can't hear you, Laura.
Any more discussion? Seeing none, the motion to move action item 1.5 to the regular meeting for adoption will be conducted by a roll call vote. As I call your name, please reply yes or no to approve. Trustee McNeil?
I would have to reluctantly.
A point of order or point of information. Can we still just approve it tonight immediately, whether or not they get paid earlier or not? Can we just approve it and not have it go to the next meeting? I did it.
Yeah, that's
Sure.
what you're making.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so this is what we're doing? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not gonna matter.
Yeah.
It's still not gonna get it paid any sooner.
I understand that.
Okay.
So,
That's a good
yeah,
point.
just for clarification, again, it's 1.5, seeking that the teachers be paid their,
That it's
the bonus
approved tonight.
immediately tonight.
Okay.
Yeah. And again, I'll take a roll call vote. As I call your name, please reply yes or no to approve. Trustee McNeil,
Yes.
Trustee McIntyre, or Board President McIntyre.
Yes, however you slice it, yes.
All right, all right.
Too many Macs.
Ms. Fair is gone. Trustee Green,
Absolutely, yes.
Trustee McIntyre,
Yes.
Ms. Wright's gone, and myself is a yes. So the motion passes by a vote of 5 yes, and again, we have 2 absent. Seeing no further action, I declare the Human Resources Committee of the Whole meeting adjourned. I now turn the floor over to President McIntosh for the Board Committee of the Whole portion of the agenda.
I will now call upon Ms. Stewart to present the board committee action items to the board.
I seek a motion and a second to move action item 21.2, membership in the Michigan High School Athletic Association for the 21-22 school year to the regular meeting on August 18th for adoption.
So moved.
Support. Support.
I'm sorry. I'm waiting on Adrian to do his thing. Okay. It has been moved and properly supported. It has been moved and properly supported. So is there any discussion? Okay, seeing there is no further discussion, the motion to move action item 21.2 to the August 18th board meeting for adoption will be conducted by a roll call vote. And when I call your name, please say yes or no to approve. Ms. Green,
Yes.
Ms. McIntyre,
Yes.
Ms. McNeil,
Yes.
Mr. Walker,
Yes.
and myself, Carol McIntosh. The motion passes 5 yes and 2 members are absent.
I seek a motion and second to move action item 21.3, authorization to fill library board vacancy to the regular meeting on August 18th for adoption.
So moved.
Support.
It has been, oh, I can't move it. I forgot I'm cheering it. I'm all
So
taking.
moved. So moved.
Okay, it has been moved and properly seconded. It has been moved and properly seconded to move this item to the regular board meeting for the adoption. Is there any discussion? And I do have some discussion because they want to appoint somebody for us. And I think we're perfectly capable of appointing our own person.
That's right.
So I think that we as a board need to start considering who we would appoint.
Yep.
Yes.
So I think we should, so
Thank you.
even though we agreed to, so now we agreed, we made the motion and we seconded. So we want to appoint our own person, so we're not supporting this. So I guess in order for us to not do this, we still have to know it then, huh? Or how would that work, Mo?
So on page 32, Kay Schwartz has outlined the steps that we're supposed to take as a board, according to our bylaws, to form a committee.
Well, I read that and I
Oh, okay.
understand that. What I'm trying to understand is even though we moved it to the regular board meeting for adoption, we're not adopting what they're suggesting.
Right.
So are we really moving it to the board meeting? I think what we probably need to be doing is declining this
Right.
and appointing our own person, if that is the board's intentions, because I don't want to be manipulating nobody.
Right.
No, we with you on this.
Okay, Ms. McNeil?
No, I'll disagree 100%.
Okay, so we're gonna rescind that,
Yeah, so again, I'm all on board for picking. I just would want to make sure that, again, the person who, Moses, is considered within, again, potentially who we pick.
okay, that's fine. I don't have a problem with Mr. Moses being under consideration. Okay, so, we're gonna rescind our motion to move this to the full board next week. And at this time, we're gonna, and we wanna pick our own, so we have to decline this, I would think.
You have to vote and it will be
We just-
nays on the vote.
Yeah.
And then another motion that you vote on. Is that right, Mo?
I don't know who the. No, I don't know. No, because we
But
don't.
wouldn't it be that somebody would make a motion that the board would pick their own person?
Right.
And then the board would
Well,
vote
what
on
we
that.
have to do first is deny this,
Yes,
because this
gotta
is
vote
very
no on this.
specific.
Yeah,
So we have
no
to
on
vote this down and then come back with a vote.
With the motion.
Right.
Yes.
So at this time, we're making a motion to not, oh, wait,
So
let
you
me
gotta
see.
vote on this one first.
Yeah, we're gonna
Okay, we're
vote on the
gonna vote on
motion to
this.
move
So,
it
okay,
forward.
okay, here we go. It is, okay, at this time, I'd like to make a motion to accept action item 21.3, and that is to appoint somebody for us to the, so now we just gotta vote it down. Okay, here we go. Okay, so we're voting it down, not to accept the appointment. Okay, Ms. McIntyre,
No.
Ms. Green,
No.
Mr. Walker.
Yes for me.
Yes for him. Miss McNeil,
Yeah, I know.
and it's a no for me. So the motion fails and we have to appoint somebody at this time. So that motion
Now you
fails.
gonna make your motion that the
Well, we
board
don't really,
wants to-
well,
you
we
gotta
don't,
vote.
we don't have to vote on that. I'm gonna tell you why. Because we automatically earned the spot for the appointment. We just turned down this appointment. We don't have to vote to appoint somebody because it's a given. We get 4 slots. So now what we have to do is find somebody that we want to appoint, and then we make the motion to accept whoever it is that we're trying to appoint to that situation.
Pleasure of the board that I be in contact with the, or are you going to make contact with the, Ms. Fboe?
You already know I ain't making contact with nobody.
All right.
It's none of their business. I mean.
So that she's clear as far as what the pleasure of the board was this evening.
Yes,
Honoring Mr. Walker's request that Moses would still run the
consider.
pool.
Yes, yes, yes.
You will have until his term ends
September 30th. That's what I thought I saw. Okay. All right, please continue, Ms. Stewart.
I seek a motion and second to move action item 21.4, gifts and donations, to the regular meeting on August 18th for adoption.
So moved.
Second. It has been moved and properly seconded that we accept gifts and donations for action item 21.4. Is there any discussion?
Yes.
Both of them are going to DTM.
22,000.
If you see on page,
Okay, just want to make sure.
But they're going for specific earmarked things. What's the accounting process for this so that we can see? Because it's specific, but it's also vague, and I'd like to make sure that the bequest is honored.
when a donation it comes into the district, they immediately notify me. The two checks were written specifically. One was for hearing impaired and one is for the physical therapy room. So the accounting department has already notified the building principal, and the principal is well aware of where these dollars are to be spent, and they will work with that accounting person on those expenditures. If I'm wrong, Mrs. Dunn, correctly,
Oh, okay, so we're gonna have like a separate account for this. Yeah. Is there something that maybe we can do to acknowledge, like like with the physical therapy room, for example, maybe like rename the room or have a something. This is quite a significant donation, these two checks. And so, not only would I like it to us to, after it's been spent or, purposed for what it was for, maybe to have a public like account of it and maybe something to, publicly acknowledge. Not necessarily, I know that we have to be careful with names. Sometimes they don't want their names and things like that, but at least to have, hey, this, this is what we've done and thank you. Yeah, yeah.
usually what has happened is there's been a plaque or
Yeah.
something that's been,
Maybe we can work with the estate executor and see what the wishes are for this bequest and just do something.
Yeah.
And maybe with our PR department, follow up because of the story. I'm not trying to say that we exploit the story or anything, but this is lovely. And this is about a former student who's, all that kind of
Post
thing.
something on the website. Thank you. You think maybe post it?
Well, we need to see like what they're comfortable with sharing.
Well, right, I'm saying,
Yeah.
but I'm saying if they say, okay, are you okay with posting that on the website?
Yeah, or doing something. We've got a PR firm and some things. There's different things that you can do.
Yeah, even with the PR firm, all they're gonna do is make a nice flyer or put something out. I'm asking you, whatever.
Well, you can
it
do
is.
like a video snippet, it's
Okay, well,
TikTok, I don't know, whatever, it's some,
Okay.
you know what I'm saying? Like, we've got a PR firm, so like
Yeah.
this is a great opportunity to kind of share, what our district meant to a couple of individuals in a very significant way.
absolutely, absolutely. Is there any other discussion? Okay, seeing there's no further discussion, the motion to move action item 21.4 to the August 18th board meeting for adoption will be conducted by a roll call vote. When I call your name, please say yes to approve or no to disapprove. Ms. Green,
Yes.
Ms. McIntyre,
Yes.
Ms. McNeil,
Yes.
Mr. Walker.
Yes.
And myself, Ms. McIntosh, is a yes for me. Motion passes 5 yes. Members board members, in your packet is the first monthly tech report from Vertec and the request by the board. The report number is 22.1 and it is on page 39 of your packet. Does any board members have any questions about item 22.1, which can be found on page 39?
I do.
Go ahead,
It's
Mr.
a
Walker.
random one, so we may not have the answer now, but I wonder if, so when Bartek came in and presented, one of the things that I was concerned about was our systems being compromised with all the cyber attacks. I wonder, do we have cybersecurity insurance as a school district? is that something we have? We don't have to, again, get the answer now, but it was something that I was wondering because,
They're not here tonight, though, either. But sorry,
sorry,
just
go ahead.
one second. Are they coming? Didn't you say something about they're supposed to turn up? Or do we need to be inviting them? Because we need to,
They're coming next board meeting.
the 18th.
Okay, all right, I'll hold it for then.
Okay, well, you can still get it out. You can still
Well,
say it.
yeah, that, I mean, that was it,
Because
right?
it might trigger another question for another board member.
Yeah, for cyber attacks, right? So the worst thing, our system is compromised, and I'm just thinking payroll, right? If all of that disappears and we don't have cybersecurity insurance, again, you put the employees of the school district at risk, right? So I just think it's something that I want to make sure that we have, and if we don't, we make an investment in potentially moving forward, depending on what we find out.
That was very smart, Mr. Walker, because I never thought about that. Thank you so much. Go ahead, Ms. Yes, Ms. Dunpray.
We do have a cybersecurity policy as a part of our insurance that we have within the city.
Okay.
So we do have a policy.
Okay.
If you want to know specifics, I don't have that at this time, but I can do that.
I just wanted to make sure we were covered. Yeah, okay, thank you.
Okay. Does any other board members have any questions? Okay, I now turn the floor over to Secretary Green for the Academic Committee of a Whole meeting.
Thank you, President McIntosh. I would like to call the Academics Committee of the Whole meeting to order. I will now call upon Mr. Jones to present action items to the board.
Thank you, Ms. Green.
You're welcome.
I seek a motion and second to move action item 25.3, recognition of Constitution Day, September 17th, 2021, and Hispanic Heritage Month, September 15th to October 15th, 2021, to the regular board meeting on August 18th for adoption.
So moved.
It has been properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Okay, what is Constitution Day? I don't know. I'm not gonna act like I know because I don't.
You said when is Constitution
What is
Day?
it?
Oh, Constitution.
Yeah,
It's,
I know what the Constitution is. Just a little more explanation for what Constitution Day
well,
is.
they teach on it, recognize it, and do different activities
Okay,
to
that's good.
make sure our scholars are educated
Okay,
in the Constitution.
very important because they didn't have that when we were in school, not that I remember. Okay, so I can do it. I can just do a overall. I don't have to do an individual. Okay. All approved, say aye. Those opposed, say nay. Oh, you have a question?
No,
Oh.
aye.
Aye. Okay, crazy. I need some glasses. Y'all can't. Okay, so no more discussion. Seeing none, the motion to move action item 25.3 to the regular board meeting for adoption will be, oh, shoot, so did. Mom, I don't know what I do without you, girl. Wait, where am I at? See, that threw me. Oh, I see it. The motion passes, what is it, 5-0? All righty. Please continue, Mr. Jones.
I seek a motion and second to move action item 25.4, authorization to renew NWEA assessment system licenses to the regular board meeting on August 18th for adoption.
So moved.
It has been properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Yes, what did you say? I have no idea.
NWEA assessment.
Okay, assessment, okay.
NWA.
Okay.
Come back
See,
with
it's
us
getting
now.
later, I get silly, y'all. Okay, so, the most, okay, I'm gonna just, if the most say yay, what else? Oh, I thought it wasn't none. I didn't know I said that. Oh, I'm sorry.
What is it? What is it?
NWEA?
Yeah, is this, and, okay, so, like, where's the contract went before the subcommittee,
Mhm.
and you guys, like, this is a thing, it's a good thing.
NWEA been going on for a minute now.
Yes.
Mr. Jones, can you offer a little explanation?
NWEA is the assessment that we use to try to bring it back to your attention is the continuity of learning. When I gave you the reading and math scores,
Okay.
that's what we use to get the reading and math scores for our scholars 3 times a year.
So, why is there, what's the science add-on? So,
We also take a science test as well for some of our,
but it says that the growth K through 12, the initial assessment includes science, so why is there a science add-on?
Let me go to where you are.
Okay. The web-based MAP license in mathematics.
43, I think it's on.
It's on 42,
Oh,
reading,
42.
language, and science for students in K through 12. And then we have another add-on for science for grades 3 through 8. Is that necessary to have an additional science add-on, or?
I think it's to cover the quantity. I can't see where map growth science add-on.
So here's in the executive summary, it says major discussion points. It says under the two bullet points, web-based map license in mathematics, reading, language, and science for students in grades K through 12, including skills checklist for $36,000 and $52. Then it says there's an add-on for $2,500 for science for grades 3rd through 8th. Why is there an additional science add-on in particular for that grade, and why is it, and if it's included, like, so what is the science that's included in the $36,000 one?
I would have to get some more information for you on that.
So
I can have it by next board meeting.
So I guess what I'm concerned about is, being a new board member is having these licenses and policies and contracts coming up. It's, it's something that we've asked for previously, to be given at least some information so that we can have some background, rationale, and justification. And I just don't feel like I have enough information. This is a lot of money that tell me why it's necessary. Why it's necessary to spend $38,000 for, is the assessment worth it? Is it doing its job?
It's a growth assessment. It is worth it. The information you're asking about the add-on is what I need to make sure you get. However, NWA is important for our scholars to be able to reach their target growth. In other words, what happens is when a scholar takes the NWEA test, it lets us know where they are. This is the best we have to be able to find out what's happening with all of our scholars district-wide. So we take that information and teachers teach based on where they are currently testing. And they continue to teach until the next cycle for testing. And if the scholars meet their target or do not meet their target, they determine assessments or interventions from there.
So I guess my question would be, because like I said, I'm new to the board. What other assessments are we using? What other assessments are available? Is this the cheapest one? Is this the most value for money? Is this the best for our scholars? Like, is it measuring, what we need in order to give them what they need, in terms of growth? So I don't know anything about NWEA. That's all.
I guess you wouldn't if you're not working in these schools. This been around for years. This is not a bad price, $38,000 for the results that we get from these kids. And if you sit, and I've been doing this for 7, 8, or 9, or 10, 15 years. This is excellent. This is how we get early intervention. This is how we can help the kid before the crisis get there. And the question that you're answering, this can't be separated if you understand how the system works. As a new board member, as any board member, I suggest that sometimes you have to go in when they're doing these NWA tests. They do need volunteers every now and then. Trust me, with with the problem that we have, come in doing NWA time and sit, and you can volunteer and help, and you'll see how important this is. And we don't even get the support we need to actually give an NWA test. Am I correct?
Yes,
Because it takes a lot, and we're working with a lot of students with a lot of issues. So I don't know what you're looking for, but $38,000 for Flint?
Well, I guess my question is are we satisfied with it? Also, are we duplicating efforts? Like, are there other assessment tests
No,
that are?
this is it right here.
That's what I'm like.
We're not duplicating. This is our growth test, standardized test
Okay.
that we use for the district. It is research-based, and this is what the district has chosen. And I'm not sure how many years we've been using NWEA, but since I've been here,
Since I've been here.
I know we've been using NWEA. And this year, our goal is to ensure that our scholars are meeting their growth target. And this gives our scholars a push to work towards something instead of just being in school every day. They know I need to meet this target. And so they continue to
Right.
work on that target throughout the
Right. I
school
mean, I
year.
know how the assessments and stuff work. I'm just wondering if it's like, if it's good for our district and it's
I
the
believe
price
so.
is right.
We
And-
believe so.
Okay. And then if we can just get that information about
Absolutely.
the extra piece.
Absolutely.
That's all.
You'll have that. I can give that to you tomorrow.
And also, I'm just, and I can do like more research on this, but like, how are they adapting to hybrid and online learning and compensating for measuring that gap in learning achievement? I mean, so if they're looking, I mean, are they doing this, are they adapting their tests? Are they adapting their evaluations?
You're talking about NWEA.
Mhm.
I have not seen any adaptations for the virtual or hybrid learning. The test has been taken with scholars at home. So that was the only difference, is they took it at home instead of taking it at the school.
Is there any more discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye, those opposed say nay.
Aye.
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 Oh, aye.
Yay. A.
Motion carried 5-0. Please continue, Mr. Jones.
All right. I seek a motion and a second to move action item 25.6, authorization to purchase approved items from amended school. Did I skip one?
25.5, yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
I'm sorry.
That's all right.
I seek a motion and a second to move action item 25.5, list of approved courses, to the regular board meeting on August 18th for adoption.
Support.
Second.
It has been moved and properly seconded. Is there any discussion?
I did have a question about Edgenuity.
What page?
It's on 120. Do we need to, it says see current Edgenuity course catalog, see current Lincoln Learning course catalog. Is that something that we need to look at?
It's in here. It's back in these pages.
It's in, okay, so
Yeah.
it's, I guess I'm just trying to,
So
it's-
page 46 starts what you're approving. Page 49 is the entire catalog.
okay,
So these are the new classes that we've added to the course catalog. Pages 46, 47, and 48. And the entire catalog is from 49 to, 120.
okay, that's what I was kind of like trying to figure out what that was about.
Yes,
And
ma'am. It's in there.
okay,
And I'm happy to answer if you call me, if you want to talk about it.
yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just got a quick question. So on page 47, it talks about the beginning music tech program, which I think is pretty dope, especially given, you know, the interest of a lot of students. But it made me wonder, do we have a band program at our schools?
Yes.
Okay.
We do.
Okay.
It's not, yes. I'm just not sure.
All right. Yeah. I just wanted to know when I saw that.
I know, I was like, we have German?
Is there any more discussion?
I have some discussion, but not about this, but before I forget.
Okay.
The one board for the music room, can we get that board so they can do their music? Because it was, wherever that guy said he tried to get it and it ended up in the cafeteria, so they can't operate the music
That was
practice.
all right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because they're
It
missing
should
the
be in-
board.
It should be in.
Oh, so you've already ordered one, or you're
It
saying
should
it
have
should be?
already, we've already ordered those. It should already be in the music room. I don't know why it's in the cafeteria.
Can you follow
I
up
would
on
have to
that?
check on
And even if the cafeteria keeps it, can we get a commitment that they'll get their board? Because the
Well,
music
she
room,
resigned.
There was a lady who resigned.
well,
They
it
said
it
they
they're still
doesn't,
gonna have music.
it doesn't matter if she resigned. The
They still
kids
need it in there.
still need to be able to
She may not
jam
need
on
it,
it.
but the kids definitely do.
The kids still gotta jam on it. So I just want agreement from our
It
administration.
is, but when I was at Door Rider, there was one in there, so I don't understand what's different now.
Yeah.
Okay,
Because it was one in there when I was the principal in
I was gonna say, I thought I
2019,
seen it when I.
2020.
okay,
So
well,
I don't know what happened with that. So I'll
okay.
check.
Well, King Dora White, can you get on your alma mater and track it down and see what's going on over there at the ride? Okay, and I'm sorry for being off subject. I just wanted to get that out, okay, and I'm done.
Is there any more discussion on 25.5? Seeing no further discussion, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those
Aye.
opposed say nay. Motion passes 5-0. Mr. Jones, could you continue?
Yes, I seek a motion and a second to move action item 25.6, authorization to purchase approved items from amended school improvement grant, SIG, FY '21 to the regular board meeting on August 18th for adoption.
So move. Sorry, support.
It has been properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Yes, so I do have a question about, all right, so I know that it's the SIG grant, and so, you know, a lot of times we were like, oh, it's just a grant, we have to spend the grant money, but there's a makerspace.
Are you what page, Joan?
I'm trying to find it. The makerspace specialist on page 125. How did we determine the makerspace specialist? I mean, because that's a pretty good salary right there. And I know that the public has really called for people who are in the building who look like the students, and I'm concerned about having, you know, just bringing people on, like with favoritism and cronyism, and just bringing people on from outside the district to come in and hold these spaces. And there's nothing, I mean, this isn't personal about anybody who has this particular position, but how do we hire these positions, these grant positions, and why can't we have someone who lives here kind of doing this? And why isn't there more coordination with, I mean, we've got maker spaces downtown, we've got enterprise districts. Isn't there some way that we can sort of collaborate with Factory 1 and Factory 2 and not have to duplicate? So we're paying $81,000 for someone to run the makerspace at Southwestern. And it's a great program. And it's a great person who runs it. However, we do have maker spaces downtown. So I'm concerned about like replicating.
Right.
You know, we're talking about collaboration with community, and I know that there's been a lot of talk about, you know.
Factory 2, didn't we have a type of partnership with Factory 2? Yeah, so did something happen to that where this makes this necessary, or it's an additional to?
We agreed to it and nothing never manifested from it, nothing never happened, even though we agreed.
Right, I remember we did
So,
that.
I mean, isn't there a better
Revisit that?
way to use these grant monies that without, it just seems like we're just being really wasteful because it's a grant and we're not really paying attention to some of the possibilities. And so not only the person who's in charge of the makerspace, but then there's a lot of duplication with some of this material. Like I don't understand some of these line items in here for $13,000, $8,000, subtotal of $65,000 for materials, like, and we only had, what, 3 weeks of in-class instruction? So I'm really kind of concerned about what we're spending all this money on for less than 3,000 students, you know, a makerspace for less than 3 weeks of instruction. And there's also in here, we're giving money to the University of Michigan Flint, to their Office of Outreach, for professional learning. Why can't U of M? I mean, it's like $8,000 or something like that. Why isn't U of M just providing us, surely they've got the resources and there's got to be some way that we can collaborate. And the Office of Outreach and Learning, if I'm going to, be paying grant money, that's not necessarily what I would pick to be training our students, given what I know about how that institution operates from an inside level, and how they've treated the Flint Community Schools. So the Office of Outreach is separate from their K through 12 instruction, and the K through 12 instruction we no longer cooperate with. They no longer provide dual enrollment. And that, to me, like, there's stuff that's going on that we can do better with. We're just throwing money out there, and we've got these community resources that I think we could collaborate with to get them for like a lower price or free, or, there's other grant programs that we can combine with.
Right.
And why would we be paying U of M for professional leadership when they won't even bother to come into our classrooms and provide dual enrollment?
She hit you with a lot.
So I'm gonna go ahead.
I'm gonna just say, let me finish. I'm gonna just say this. If you can answer some or all, that would be great. If not,
Okay.
is it okay that he gets back with you? That was a lot. You got all that?
The team works together, so
Okay.
they're gathering
That's a lot.
information while you talk.
And it's legitimate questions too, because I
Presented with all of this,
Yeah.
it's like, do you have anything to say? And I'm like, yes, I've got
Right.
this.
Right.
There's some problems in our
Right.
district.
Do you
Business
think
making
that before these final decisions is made, how grant money is spent, that maybe you bring it before the board so the board can have a conversation, and then we don't waste a lot of time because it have to come to the board anyway. And so before we make these final decisions and create all this data, it would make sense to me to come to the board and see what we are trying, which direction we're trying to go. And as appear to what you're trying to say, I agree with what you're saying.
Absolutely.
And that's some of the things that we have a problem with when stuff is presented to us, but somehow they don't include the board and don't include us. And then we stuck here till 9 and 10 o'clock trying to unravel something when it would take a few minutes. We have all these subcommittee meetings. What do you think? What do you think?
I think the board definitely needs to have some input because she's provided a lot of information I had
Good
no idea
information.
about.
Yeah.
And I think it's valuable information that need to be considered before we partner and
And
pay.
she's
And
responding
like
to
you
the
said, can we
community.
partner and do something for free for our kids? And U of M, they get plenty bread, I'm thinking. So they seem like they would have something to give more than us giving to them. Right? Right, okay. Ms.
So-
McIntosh.
So can I allow the team to
Yeah.
speak on that?
Absolutely.
I'll go first. I was hearing the comments that Board Member McIntyre was making regarding the makerspace specialist. And that's the same teacher. That's one teacher. And the amount that is here is her annual salary. It's not what she's gonna be paid in that small space. That is her annual salary for the whole year. So, she'll spend that amount or whatever she spends out of SIG, but she remains a art teacher in Southwestern, in that building.
So she teaches art classes too?
Yes. She is an art
And so-
certified teacher.
So her salary for being a teacher at Southwestern is paid out of this.
The portion that the grant can cover, yes.
The portion, so she's paid more than this?
Well, the SIG grant ends when? So her salary is being paid until September 30th.
Okay.
But that was her annual salary.
Okay.
And just for clarification, Board, I apologize. You all have seen this same iteration of this grant multiple times. This is the same SIG grant that came to you in September. But we amended it because there were some items in it that they wanted for summer school that they didn't purchase. And because the grant ends September 30th, we wanted to try to make sure our grant utilization was used properly based on the students returning to face-to-face school. So all of these items represent SIG year 5, which started in October of 20, in October of 20, that ends September of 21. So these are not new. We had very few new line items, but what I always do is bring you back the whole grant. So I apologize because I think some of these things may appear like, oh, this is starting now and it's September 30th. So I apologize for that.
No.
But I always bring you back. Anytime we make an amendment, I bring the whole grant back to you. But
No,
if
I
that's
had
causing-
problems with this back when it was originally brought.
Right.
The same issues, and
So-
I did vote against it at the time. And so now I'm reiterating and trying to say, what can we do to be proactive so that we can really utilize our funds? And here are some of the things specifically. I mean, oh, I've got more. There's more
Sure.
nitpicking that I have in here, but these were some of the bigger ones. And like I said, this isn't personal against this particular art teacher who's fantastic, right? Yeah, but
So I
But,
just wanted to
yeah.
list that this is the same grant that we've been bringing, but I just, instead of picking and choosing which line, I just bring everything to the board and let you all see the entire grant budget.
And I like that, Miss Kiana.
yes,
Okay.
yes. And I think what I'm trying to say is when are we going to be able to take like, not just take bites out of the elephant, but like really get at that? Because we need to, tackle some of these big issues in the district. That's all.
Is there any more discussion? Those in favor of the motion say aye. I'm sorry, I said the motion. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nay.
I ain't on the nays yet.
Oh.
Those in favor, no more aye? Okay, those opposed, say nay.
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 Nay. Motion fails. 1-4. Mr. Jones?
I seek a motion and a second to move action item 25.7, authorization to purchase approved items from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services Nurses Carryover Grant FY21 to the regular board meeting on August 18th for adoption.
So moved.
Support.
It has been moved and properly seconded. Is there any discussion? Is there any discussion?
Carol's looking at me.
Right, me too.
I got that.
Anyone, so no discussion? Laura, I guess I'm talking directly to you, I
Well,
guess.
okay, so in our communications meeting, there was some community questions about, were we complying with like COVID and the nurses and everything like that? And so it would be nice to, does everyone know what the TAC meeting is, the Thursday?
At 9
meeting?
o'clock.
Yeah, so maybe.
I don't, that's new to me. I didn't know that.
You
it's-
don't?
Mm.
Oh, 9 o'clock Thursday.
It might be really nice maybe to get somebody to come to one of those
You
meetings.
always
and
there, ain't you?
You're there.
Yeah, you're there. Who else
I
is there?
I'll be there sometime.
I have
I
a
quit
single,
going.
we are
It's too
single board
much.
members, we can't speak
Communication
for the
task.
board.
So you mean an additional board member?
No, I'm talking about maybe
Oh, administration?
Mr. Jones or.
Administration.
Yeah, just to kind of say, hey,
They usually last about an hour, hour and a half. You don't have to stay on the whole
to
time.
answer some questions, and they're really nice people.
And it's a
Like,
lot of information they provide, resources and everything.
What's this
they're-
meeting?
Tactical.
Communication.
I'll give you the link and all that stuff. Yeah. I can get it to you.
Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
send it to you.
I'm trying to like, it's a whole, it's been around for like years, and it has like just the
Community
officials
departments, yeah.
from like the Department of Health, GHS.
Very valuable
Community
information.
Foundation, like all, so
It
that we
varies
get
too, because
together.
sometimes attendees are different.
Yeah.
It's not always the same, so it's always some different information that you can learn. It's real valuable information.
Yeah, and I mean, speaking of nurses, I know that was a
Mhm.
question that came up at the past
Yep.
meeting. And I go not as a board member, but as a consultant for something else.
Right.
Yeah. So I can't
That was a
speak
good
on it.
idea. Is there any more discussion? Yeah, yeah, I can.
Nothing is me.
Bob Brown,
Robert?
he does the.
Right, the emails?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, is there any more discussion? Sorry, y'all. Okay, those in favor say aye.
And this
Those,
is,
I'm sorry.
this is for the nurses fees, right?
Yeah, 25.7.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
We
Yeah, 25.7, we still on that one. So any more discussion? Okay. Those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion passes. What'd you say, Carol?
Aye.
Okay. 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Jones, for everything. I appreciate you. Seeing no further action, I declare the Academics Committee of the whole meeting adjourned. I now turn the floor back over to President McIntosh.
And at this time, I'm going to turn the floor over to Superintendent Stewart for.
So I would like to share with the board that we have lost 2 members within our Flint Community Schools family. One was a 4th grader who attended Brownell Elementary School. His services were on yesterday. And then we also lost Mr. Curtis Spates, who retired from the district in 2009. He worked in the district from 1971 to 2009 as a teacher, as an administrator at Brownell. And his last school that he was an administrator at was Dort Elementary School, retiring in 2009 after 42 years of service to the district. Mr. Spates, the services for him will be on August 15th. And I ask that if we could please have a moment of silence for those 2 individuals that we lost within our community. Thank you. Thank you, Board President.
The Board of Education will hold its regular board meeting on Wednesday, August 18th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. here at Accelerated Learning Academy. Does any board members have any final comments or questions? Ms. McNeil?
Looking over here at Door Ryder, and we've been listening at different incidents happen in schools. We need those partition walls up. And just imagine what we're using as walls. And we got curtains. If a fire break out, those kids don't have a chance whatsoever. And so, you know, we have been asking and requesting that we use some of these funds to put those partition walls up at Door Ryder. And they still don't have anybody to look at doing something where the teacher can have a restroom, their own private space at Door Ryder. So we're in the midst of a serious pandemic. I've been going to so many meetings and having so many headaches because the next one is worse. And we got to look at the protocols. Are we actually gotten lazy and washing, cleaning, and sanitizing? I have a teacher said that she was told she couldn't get no gloves. That wasn't, and it's in the SFR that they could get gloves. If a teacher wants some gloves and she's comfortable with having gloves on, you're to get her those gloves. And you tell a teacher that have to deal with kids, you can't have any gloves, you know. So we have to look at this old meanness we have towards each other, because it's just pure meanness. You know, these kids getting sick because of the adults, because they can't get the shots, some of these kids, because of their age. And we're trying to spin off, hoping parents will look at getting vaccinated. But sitting with the doctor, they say, now when you go outside, we've been in this building, when you go home, pull your shoes off. We're back to that state because the little one, they're going to catch it. And they are catching it. So I had to be cautious. You know, we're back to that stage, and this last variant, vaccination doesn't stop it. The vaccine won't stop it. So we're back to that point. When you leave here, we've been around all these people, pull your clothes off, wash your hands. He said, don't even wear your shoes back in your house anymore. When you touch the gas pump, you need gloves. That's how serious we are. the virus hadn't went anywhere. It's just the economy is pushing people. And we got to be careful about, these kids coming in here. We was donated from Michigan United, some beautiful face masks for the little kids. And I have those for you. And we got masks if you need masks, wash, sanitize. So we're back to that point. It's not about you and I, we're vaccinated. But my grandkid can get it from me because I can have it on me and they catching it. So if we can do anything, we got to make sure we got money that every school have what they need to be protected at all times. They got to start by washing, rinsing, sanitizing because it's on their shoes. It's when they come in the building. We don't know where they're picking it, but it's traveling very fast.
Ms. Gray? More like 4. For the 4th grader who passed away, I know typically we would have crisis counseling because when they were in school, but how are we doing anything like that, or how is that being handled? Under the
So
circumstances.
their school has come together.
Okay.
Myself, Bias, and a couple others went to the funeral just to show our support. But their school, I have to shout out Brownell and those members of Flint Community Schools that supported. But they have something that they're putting together for that family.
Absolutely, thank you.
And I think it's a surprise. So I don't want to.
My fault.
But I have to tell you, yeah.
I apologize. I wasn't sure. Well, I'm glad to hear that. I'm not surprised. I just wanted everybody else to know how we get down, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so success for all reading. If I recall, when I was in the schools teaching, the kids kind of moved around a lot with the success for all reading program. Are we limiting that movement under the circumstances, or are we still doing it as usual?
So right now, this is a conversation.
Okay, good.
We're trying to have with our health community because Success for All will cause our scholars to be in different rooms.
Yep.
So we're about to have that conversation with our health community to determine how we do this, because this will be the 2nd year that Success for All. If we don't use it, which I understand the variance. So if we don't use it, this will be the 2nd year, and we will have to figure out what we're going to do with that hour-and-a-half block.
Okay.
So we want to talk to the health community that's been guiding us, Dr. Reyes, have been guiding us all this time.
Okay.
And try to get their input on it.
Okay.
And then we'll bring that back to you.
Okay. So
and go from there.
That's good. Nothing against the health community, but a lot of stuff I don't be agreeing with what they plan. So like,
Say that again.
when they thought we should go back to school, I thought that was ridiculous.
Okay.
And also when they came and they did, they're not doing deep cleaning and when it was not necessary or something, that was alarming to me. Extremely alarming, because deep cleaning is necessary even when it ain't a virus, I'm thinking, right? So I just hope that we re-implement that if we ever stop doing that, because that's important on all levels to prevent all kind of contaminating spaces. And also filters for the faucets for children to wash their hands. I know we had got some and they were in the building. Did we ever get them installed inside the schools? Because that's important. I know when I worked at the schools, we use faucets all the time. So I just really want to know about these filters on these faucets. And I know Mr. Chapman said they got sanitizer everywhere, but when something get in a kid eye, we can't use sanitizer. Right?
You are right.
Okay.
You are right. You're right. So we're making sure that, and I know you spoke about sanitizer, but we are making sure that our staff and our students have sanitizer.
Right.
The filters on the water faucets, so that never came through, never came to fruition. If you recall, I think Mr. Chapman made a statement that we were waiting on some to come from the city of Flint.
Yeah. I thought, if I remember correctly, he told me that they were in the building or in the.
We got a few.
Okay.
But we were waiting on, I think, if I recall, I believe the number must have been like 200 or something like that we were trying to get from the city of Flint.
Okay.
That never came to fruition.
Okay.
So the few that we did get, which was not a whole lot, was not a whole lot to even do a whole school.
Oh, wow. So where do we go from here?
So I don't know if you recall back when we were talking about the filters in the hope that we would get them from the city of Flint, that if we didn't get them from the city of Flint, then we could go through, if so the board really wanted us to have those filters on the water fountains, we could go to using our own funds for them. But at that point in time, we had put a pause on it to see if so they were going to come through from the city of Flint, because a donation was better than us spending our money.
Absolutely.
And so we're still, at this point, we don't have them. So if the board wants us to go forward with them, then we would have to purchase them.
My hope is that we do, because we've waited long enough. And I've seen the faucets being used on a regular basis for children. So I think, for me, the waiting period is up.
So is that a motion?
That's a motion to get
We're
the
talking
filters
about
for the faucets.
We're talking about.
Oh, we gotta get a quote?
Yeah, we have.
We do we gotta do an RFP and all that stuff?
We're talking about the one in the
Depending on
bathroom,
the
washing
cost
hands
of them,
and-
depending on how much the cost comes to.
Okay, so whatever the process will be, or maybe, can we just move forward with that with my motion?
So your motion is for me to go through with getting a quote and bringing that back to the board? What do you want? What's your motion?
My
I don't want
motion
to
is
tell
to
you
get
what
them
your
and put 'em
motion
in.
is. Your motion is to get them and put them in.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that's my
Keep it,
motion.
Okay.
I'd like to give point of information. Keep in mind, we tried that process during the water crisis, putting those filters in those bathrooms, and they took them off when they get in a fight.
I never seen none in the bathrooms. I didn't.
You saying that's why you somebody in the sinks?
No, I said I seen them in the classrooms. I never seen them.
Oh yeah, we always had them kind of in the classroom because the city was.
Well, they not there
providing-
now.
Oh, yeah, the city was providing them at one time. Yep, you're right.
So I'm not talking about the bath, but you know.
So what's your motion, Board
Well,
Green?
wherever they work,
Doing the
and
water
I've seen them in the
crisis.
classrooms, and if she said the bathroom wasn't working, but dang, they still need.
Yeah, but.
Well, I think classrooms, let's start there, because that's where I've always seen them, and that's where I've seen them utilized the most.
Okay.
Okay, so her motion was to
Get them
get filters for the
Classrooms.
classrooms, and it shouldn't be over $5,000.
Because they use-
If it is, I'll send you.
Right, but I second that
Thank you.
to support that, and then if it's over 5,000, you let us know where
Yes, ma'am. Okay.
Mr. Walker, did you have something?
No, we were just talking about, we knew that they was there at one time in the.
They
in the-
were.
Yeah, and they was doing a water crisis, then we had people to come in and change them and test
They
the
needed
water.
filters, is
Yeah.
what they needed, and we never got them
And we
replaced. is
never,
what-
I thought so we don't have filters, that's a problem.
I didn't know that the city had stopped that, because literally I went down maybe 2 months ago and got some for
Really?
my faucet. So that's why I said again, I didn't know if the city has stopped or not, but it's definitely something.
Maybe revisit
something
that.
I will
to-
follow up,
Absolutely.
and then
Yeah.
if I can't get them, then we'll order them.
And this is the
And
last
maybe you
thing.
give me a sample of one of those so I could go over there and ask in person, like,
Want me to
the
see a
district
picture of
need-
it?
yeah.
A picture of it? I got it.
or
on
the
my phone.
packaging, so when I go
Okay.
over
Oh,
there,
I'm gonna-
because I'm gonna go right over there and ask them for
Okay.
'em.
And my last question, the smart fountains.
Smart fountain.
The what?
Yeah. Just an update on where we are. Were they able to get in the building and see what step would be next, or where we are exactly on those?
So where we are, and I just spoke to Dr. Sullivan this week.
Okay.
The Kettering has completed the testing at Kettering. So the
Okay.
testing at Kettering is complete. We're now at the point of starting the testing inside of the school buildings.
Okay.
And so the water fountains are, let me make sure I say this correctly. They are on the wall in all the schools.
Oh, really?
But the plumbing isn't hooked up yet.
Okay.
And so we have to work with Goyette to get the plumbing hooked up to all of the water stations. And then once the plumbing is hooked up to all of the water stations, they will begin testing inside of the buildings.
Okay, and okay. So did we, if I recall correctly, it was something about the final phase of testing where it wasn't passing. Did that sound familiar to anybody else? It was something we needed to get some.
One of, that was an old, well, I don't know if this is the same one, because remember they didn't have it was a piece to it that the
Something.
company went out of bid.
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
that the same thing we talking about?
I don't know if that's what Board Member Green is
Yeah, that's
talking
what-
about,
that's
but
not
what you're
what we
saying
had.
is true.
right? Is
Yeah,
that what we have?
that's not what I'm talking
So
about. though.
that's what held up the testing so long at Kettering.
Yeah.
Because the company went out of business and we couldn't get the filters for them. And it took a long time for us to find a filter for it. And that held up the testing process at Kettering, which is why it took so long. But I don't know if that's what board member.
No, that's
Green
not
is
what I'm
picking
talking
up.
about.
So this
And
is
I
a
may be
different-
remembering incorrectly, but I thought it was something about, because it goes through several phases of testing.
Mhm.
And either the last test or the last part of the testing, they couldn't get it to pass it or something.
Mm-mm.
Who was it?
No, they just, Stuart is correct. They did all the testing.
Okay.
Now they're just trying to get the correct filters, which it's just going through the motions of testing it
Okay.
with those filters. And it wasn't just
Inside the building.
manufacturer went out of.
I remember
business.
that.
They
I
weren't
remember that.
cooperating at all.
Oh,
Mhm, that's true.
Even when they were in business.
Okay.
So
I don't know what I'm
Mhm.
talking about then. I don't know where I got that from.
it was just a
Yeah,
lot of
it
Mhm.
was,
back.
so we know we've made progress on that,
Mhm.
and we're continuing to make progress,
Yes, ma'am.
okay?
Yes,
Dr.
ma'am.
Sullivan, Dr. Ammerman
Mm-hmm.
actually has a new position in Ann
Mhm.
Arbor, but
Oh.
she's still willing to,
Okay.
help us with videos or whatever, but Dr. Sullivan.
Great, okay. That's it.
So
Okay, is
after
that-
we get the plumbing,
Uh,
after Goyette gets the plumbing hooked up, and once they start the testing again inside of the buildings, Dr. Sullivan is willing to come back and give another
When
update
they
to the
gonna start the
board.
plumbing, we know that? And then how long does that take?
So it's my understanding that it could take a minute because the system and the plumbing, it's a lot to it.
Yeah.
And we have 130 of them to hook up. So it could, I don't have a timeline for you, but I just know that Goyette told me that it was a lot to it. It's not just a simple hookup.
Can we, and I'm not trying to put no extra work, but if Goyette, because it shouldn't be no lot, you done redid the whole city. It shouldn't take you all this time to hook up a couple of water bubblers. Bottom line. So now if Goyette is messing around, is it an option for us to go with somebody else? Because this shouldn't take this long. Like I said, they done did a whole city or a whole portion of a city, whole neighborhoods at a time, and you can't hook up.
So I don't want to say that Goyette is causing a problem. We're just now getting to the process of, yes, we're ready to hook them up. And we've had the conversations with Dr. Sullivan. We've had the conversations with Goyette this week to get them to start hooking it up.
Okay, so I won't be trying to nail nobody to the cross. All right then. Is there any other questions or comments from the board members? The Board of Education will hold its regular board meeting on Wednesday, August 18th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. here at the Accelerated Learning Academy. Seeing there's no further action, I declare the board committee of a whole meeting adjourned.